Chapter 1. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Younger sister of the sixth demon king. There are countless men. They are robust men. No matter who they are, everyone is bowing. Moreover, it is I who make them bow to me. In modern Japan, how many people have experienced such a thing? Well then, let the council commence. The well-tanned old man, standing closest to me, yelled in his loudest voice. Firstly, the ongoing tax collection from the territory is what I'd like to say, but when the old man glanced at me, he laughed with a loud voice. Everyone. Tomorrow, finally, will be the day we welcome the princess of the Oda clan. We need to work together to make sure nothing goes wrong. Oh. The men raised their voice. While desperately trying to stay composed, I decided to answer earnestly, may as well do it, if anyone talks to me. Revealing my faults wouldn't be good. It's because I cannot grasp the situation that's playing out me at all. How did this happen? I was watching a council meeting of dirty men unfold while dripping with cold sweat. I was in my room in the welfare dormitory studying for the end of semester exam that'll be held tomorrow. Yes, it's what you call last-minute cramming. However, I just don't feel motivated. I threw the mechanical pencil, and closed the mathematical IIB textbook. For a change of pace, I pull out my history textbook. Fukai Nagamasa, that is my name. My parents died early, so I don't have any memories of them. Mars, or universe, I am actually thankful that I was not given such a weird name. I hate the classes at school. Even more so, I hate the teachers who say, all of you, memorize this. That's why I truly couldn't put my all into cramming. BDNV instead, something more different. I want to be taught and learn about things that relate more directly to life. I am one of the students who desire such things. However, that is impossible with the current system. I haven't even once thought, let's learn about other things, not even in the slightest bit. Also, what I like the most is to study history. History. Don't you only need to memorize it? There was a classmate who said this, but this person doesn't understand at all. However, I do. History is not something you memorize, it is something that we, the human beings of the present, search for ourselves. Unanimously, all historians assert this. History is something you explore, it won't reveal itself to you on its own. During the time I had Chinibu in a history book I casually picked up in the library, the historian said so in the afterword, and I continue to hold it in high regard even now. The me from then on was hasty. A person who suffers from Chinibu greedily strives for knowledge more than anyone. For example, the name of an evil god or a setting, or possibly a cool-sounding expression and such. I absorbed this kind of information like a dry sponge in water. What I wanted was knowledge for living in the present. This was also a desire born from the Chinibu-like idea of, because this seems like it would be necessary for when I have my own nation. Daily. Foreshadowing 10/10, what kind of policies did the past politicians implement, and what reactions did people show? In what condition was the economy in the past, and what jobs did the people have? What civilizations did the societies in the past have, and what kind of lives did people have? Knowing this, I thought of using it as a reference for my life from here on. So, when I knew there was a genre called economic history and political history in historical science, I lost interest in economics and politics. It's because in economics and history, they forcibly twist the facts and the theories that exist beforehand, while historical science acquires the facts and sorts them without fail, as well as discussing them. If I do such a thing, the nation I plan to build in the future would become oppressive, and eventually it will lead to riots. I think that abandoning the theories and such that are beliefs and accumulating facts one by one is a more splendid method. And up until now, I was studying quite a lot of things completely unrelated to school. As a result, I was able to quite accurately learn how the political systems and economies of Japan and Western Europe developed in the past, in addition to what kind of conflicts arose between the governments and their people. But because I've just been doing that, I end up being imposed with the penance of last-minute cramming for every examination. The clock hand indicated 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Crap, if I don't study soon. It seemed I was too absorbed in reading the history book. Seventh Realm. I feel the same way when reading novels. Panicking, I open the mathematical IIB textbook. SLE. Sleepy. I noticed that the clock had now hit 4:30 a.m. Sleepy, very sleepy, I can't help but be sleepy. I prepared myself and set my alarm to 6 a.m. I'll take a nap. If I lie down for a bit, I'll clear my head. If I wake up at 6 and seriously study for an hour. I crawled into bed while thinking of these things, and I fell asleep, but, my lord, it's time to wake up. When I became aware, I was exactly in a Japanese futon in an elegant tatami-floored room and was being awakened by a boy with a strange top-knot hairstyle. And then while I was dumbfounded, I was dressed in a thick kimono and hakama, and an eboshi was placed on my head. While being unable to make heads or tails of anything, I arrived at that opening scene. Nagamasa-sama, is that all the arrangements for when the person of the Oda family enters our territory. It's fine as it is. However, I, who have been trying to stay calm, was gradually starting to understand the situation. First of all, my name seems to be recognized as Nagamasa. Also, in the room of this main building is a large number of powerful men who are respectful towards me, but also give off a "we are the lords of this territory" aura. Additionally, the phrase Oda family. Is this perhaps? I gulped a mouthful of saliva. And, taking the danger into account, I asked a trick question. I must ask, what is the current year? The grand hall became silent. What on earth I intended by saying that, they didn't seem to understand at all. They can't say anything untactful towards me who is the lord. Such tension drifts between the men. Nagamasa-sama, it is currently the 10th year of the Iroku era. A single man answered from the grand hall. I looked at his direction and nodded slowly. I somehow exude a dignified aura just by seriously composing myself and moving my body slowly. It's the year of critical junctures. I said what I thought of immediately when I heard the number 10. With that, a sound like "ooh" came from the grand hall. You're just too simple, all of you. I'm full of energy in mind and spirit, and the current head of the Oda family is still healthy. Saying that, I quietly stared meaningfully at the aforementioned middle-aged uncle who was the closest to me. The middle-aged uncle might have thought he needed to say something, and nodded with a yes, after which, indeed, Oda Nobunaga Dano will be 33 years old, and Nagamasa-sama will be 22 years old. Dear me, once again this is a happy matter. Even in the age of civil war, we have an excellent lord and both clans are being connected in an alliance in this year of critical junctures. How fortunate. Oh. The grand hall became noisy again. I looked at the man with conviction as I nod, but in my innermost thought, I retort with, I'm not 22 years old. No doubt, I have become the Sengoku daimyo, Nagamasa Azai of Omi. So when I finally recognized this, my beating heart thumped, and cold sweat was slowly dripping all over my body. This is like a dream-like fantasy story which I occasionally read about in light novels, but I never thought it would take place in reality. I tightly grasped my chest instinctively. Besides, what's this about marriage? Aren't I still a student? Daily. Probably referring to his age. Moreover, my brother-in-law is the conqueror Oda Nobunaga from the Sengoku period who was called the Sixth Demon King. He's the dangerous guy who, based on historical facts, decorated the skull of the current me, Nagamasa Azai, who he beheaded, with gold and used it as a cup for drinking's sake. I already feel more dead than alive. Then, we'll finish the council with this. Tomorrow, we'll individually make frantic efforts to greet them in our best state. The usual middle-aged uncle loudly declares the end of the council. By the way, it has to be said that this uncle appears to be named Sukechika Azai. It was worth having desperately strained my ears in the conversation between the men in the grand hall. If my memory serves me right, he is a considerably powerful general of the Azai clan who proceeded to proactively move in favor of the alliance with Nobunaga. Surely I must remember their names. I was already desperate. If I make a single little poor choice or even say something impolite to a subordinate, I'll lose my neck immediately. It's a famous story of Nobunaga who was killed by Akechi Mitsuhide at Hano.G for calling him bald. If I mess up one of my partner's name for an instance, in this age it is possible to trigger a revolt immediately. Therefore, I decide to withdraw for the day in the room I've woken up and organized the information at hand desperately. It was the day after I traveled over to the Sengoku period without knowing the reason. The uncle Sukechika Azai left to the Oda territory with 2 military generals, who were Anyuji Yujitane and Naotsun Endo, early this morning. If there is a person who knows a little about the Sengoku period, they will have heard of the berserker called Naotsun Endo. He was almost insane. When the Azai clan pressed the Nobunaga clan in the Battle of Anegawa, he raided the Nobunaga's stronghold by himself. Additionally, Anyoji Yujitane is the key figure who mediated between the marriage of the Azai and Oda families. Incidentally, these 3 people came to greet me, and I thought it would be bad to send them away forcefully, so upon inviting them into the room for tea, they cried in a literal sense, with tears and dripping runny noses as they drank tea. And like that, they left while trying their best to hold back their tears. To be frank, I thought, what's with these people, but thinking on it later, as the present daimyo of this prestigious clan, inviting a subordinate into one's own room to drink tea together in the Sengoku period is an extraordinary privilege. I completely forgot, people's sense of values are different now compared to the present. As historians say, the people's ideas in the present will be entirely different compared to those in the past. I was dressed in ryafuku by a page and helped with various things until noon. By the way, I thought that the wedding will surely start this evening, but I guess common sense in the Sengoku period it does not seem as it is. The bride will certainly come here to Odani Castle, but that does not mean we will immediately meet today. She'll be staying at one of the rooms in the castle since the wedding ceremony will be held the next day. As proof, Odani Castle is in an uproar already from top to bottom. The younger sister of the great daimyo of Owari and Mino, Oda Nobunaga, is coming, so I can't be imprudent. Honestly, I've already prepared myself. Well, it's because I somehow traveled to the Sengoku period, and it will be difficult to return to the former world. The name is also the same, which is Nagamasa, and is one of the reasons that there is no discomfort. Although, the last name that was Fukai is now Azai, that is the only change. Also, I have no lingering feelings for that world. Rather, I might fit better in this world where I am not driven to cram for exams. What I wanted to learn were things that related directly to life. And indeed here in the Sengoku era, what I ought to learn was all no doubt directly connected to my life. Furthermore, if I make use of the knowledge I learned in historical science, my land will surely grow. To be able to study in accordance with my desires, and yet being able to return the knowledge of my former world to the land is a win-win situation. Moreover, the princess of the Oda clan, who was said to be a peerless beauty as taught in the future, was to come as a bride. I was prepared early as necessary, for the inevitable. It's decided, I will completely develop my territory and the princess thoroughly. Alone in the room, I raised my spirit strongly. However, I came to regret my overly optimistic decision. After the wedding ceremony, overlooking the celebration of song and dance and leaving the noisy hall, what I lay in wait for was the consummation of marriage. Or the so-called bridal night. In the dimly lit room, there was a garden lantern that was shaking. Only a black-haired woman in bed clothing, who was sitting in seiza, and a one-set futon, was illuminated by the light. Boldly, I licked my lips. The depiction of Lady Oichi, who was famed as a peerless beauty, no doubt appears in color in Japanese history textbooks and records. If I may be so bold to say, I looked at them and was sneering with the notion that she won't be considered as beautiful if it was said in modern times, but it was far from it. The actual thing is the real deal. A goddess is here. For a TV actress or gravure idol to come before her was out of the question. Her lustrous black hair flows like silk, and her smooth snow-white skin vividly contrasts quite nicely. Great round moistened eyes, with a tall bridge nose. Above all, a nice figure. I came to this room together with her but was surprised that there is not much of a height difference. Maybe as tall as 170 centimeters. Her chest that is bulging in the kimono can stir up the evil passion in me who was a man. Without a doubt, she is an unrivaled beauty. However, at the present stage, you can say an unrivaled beautiful girl. I quietly sat in front of Lady Oichi. Then, she bowed respectfully in a Mitsuyabi and then looked at me with upturned eyes. Oichi greets Nagamasa-sama, once again, please take care of me from now on. I'm impressed. How should I say it? A long-forgotten Japanese Yamato Nadeshiko is here. However, I, who is a modern-day child, also think this. That is. What would it be like if this graceful princess is completely developed as a woman? Right, like an ero doujinshi, an ero doujinshi. Oops. I unconsciously said it out loud. Lady Oichi slightly tilts her head, puzzled, as she asks. Nagamasa-sama. What's an ero doujinshi? Ah. It's a textbook. I immediately made up a bullshit answer. Instantly, Lady Oichi blushed. Hearing textbook, what did you imagine? In fact, that actually piqued my interest. But rather than that, I slowly reached my limit. That when I gently push her down on the futon, Lady Oichi mutters while embarrassingly averting her gaze. Her black raven hair suddenly flowing on the futon is beautiful. It's all right. I whispered in her ear while stroking her cheek as she formed a beautiful visage. I'll do it properly for you. Like in those ero doujins. As she says that shyly, my son was reaching its limit. Opening Lady Oichi's kimono, her shoulders are exposed. Seeing her snow-white shoulders, I gulped down my saliva, and started the first step of the Lady Oichi development project. Chapter 2. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. First night with Lady Oichi. It is the first night with Lady Oichi. The first time, should be, how should I say it, like, I think it's nice to enjoy the girl's awkwardness that is similar to being tired out. Although there aren't many people that may agree with me. Lady Oichi's body is white and smooth. I exposed her shoulder and nape, then gently caressed her collarbone. Her skin was soft, compelling me to touch it forever. The sensation was similar to stroking high-quality silk. Lady Oichi's body would sometimes struggle while under me, as she attempted to fasten her kimono to her exposed chest. I wonder if the women in this age also think being seen is embarrassing. I felt like being a bit mean, and decided to lick the nape of her neck. Lady Oichi's sensitive body reacts as she tries to escape from the sensation of my tongue. However, I won't allow that. I place my hand on Lady Oichi's left shoulder and stop her from getting away. Nagamasa-sama. What is it, Oichi? I whispered in her ear, referring to her without the honorific or her title, lady. I run my hand from her side to her waist with my left hand, as my right hand was on her shoulder. Lady Oichi murmured delicately with a crimson-red face while timidly shaking her body. Ha! It's embarrassing. That's it, it's because it's embarrassing. But it's completely different than what I have heard from Sama. I smiled wickedly as I start biting on Lady Oichi's earlobe, using my head to the fullest to mobilize all my knowledge. Lady Oichi said, no, who is said to be Nobunaga's wife, which was a memento from the famous Saito Dosen, too. There are various theories floating about that said she died with her husband in Hano.G Temple, while another theory suggests that she was alive and lived her life in Kyoto. However, this knowledge was not important at the moment. Hey, Oichi-yi. Yes, Nagamasa.sama. No. Sama, what did she teach you again? When I raised my body and asked while looking at Lady Oichi from above, she closed her eyes tightly and moved her bright red face aside. It's cute. It makes me want to bully her more. I took the chance and went for Lady Oichi's kimono, finally exposing her chest to my heart's content. No, you don't want me to see. Not really. It's embarrassing. If that's the case. I scoop up her abundant breast and proceeded to massage it. My voice almost leaked out in astonishment, that's how superb the view is. Two pure white mountains swaying like waves. Then on the top of the swaying mountain lies a light peach color. Seeing this spectacle, the fact that I didn't grab the captivating breast of Lady Oichi was praiseworthy. Tell me, what did No. Sama teach you about manners in the bedroom? Well. I massage her breast up and down slowly. I massage and caress gently, and sometime I put more power on my hand and rub it harder. Not going to tell me. Boo, but, such a thing, is immodest. As Lady Oichi writhes, I use both of my hands to grasp her breast, and a deep valley was shown. Indeed, such an amazing sight. If I stick my son in here, I bet it will feel even more pleasant, but now is not yet the time. Then, why did Oichi come here? That's. Lady Oichi's face is red, but she properly looks at me and said. The Oda clan and Azai clan in the future will walk hand in hand, and we both will walk together. HMMP. Using my middle finger, I flicked both of Lady Oichi's nipples. Ah! Lady Oichi cried slightly as she raised her waist. As she noticed the volume of her voice, she bashfully hides her face with both of her hands. Hey Oichi, did you hear that? Lady Oichi doesn't answer as she covers her face. If it was I who uttered that voice some time ago, I would be considerably embarrassed as well. Taking advantage of the situation, I proceeded to lick the tip of her white, soft breast that has never been touched by any other man before. Lady Oichi let out her lutest sound so far as she pinned my head down. I don't know whether I should stop or continue. In this situation, I would just interpret it however I'd like. Of course the action I chose is licking her erect nipples, softly putting them in my lips, and then biting them softly once in a while to arouse her. Well, as a man, naturally this is the proper response to get. No. Don't lick under there, nu. Oichi, I ask Oichi, as I move and raise both her breasts. Whose wife are you? Who's the, what I'm trying to say is. As her body shakes slightly, Lady Oichi stares at me with moistened eyes and ragged breathing. I played around with Oichi's breast and thought that she somewhat looks like a puppy. I want to be certain about this. Are you a bride of the Azai clan, or the bride of Nagamasa Azai, which is it? Noel.na. Lady Oichi cast down her eyes, looking troubled. That's right, in the Sengoku period, when the daimyos get into a matrimonial relationship, they only usually serve three big purposes. Namely, to take hostage, form an alliance, or usurp the other clan. In the Sengoku period society, where love between men and women was unnecessary, the reality was that marriages between clans were mainly profit-seeking endeavors. Which means that women aren't married to the individual, but instead for the benefit of the clan, so they need to be vigilant in order to not be taken advantage of. And the opposite can also be said. As a matter of fact, it was already a common practice. However, at the very least, I don't want such a barbaric matrimonial relationship, I don't want such a lonely relationship with Lady Oichi. While rubbing her breasts and coating them well with saliva, I brought my face closer to Lady Oichi. Listen well, Oichi. I firmly match my eyes with Oichi's. Face flushed red, moistened eyes, and sweat also dripping from her forehead accompanied with disheveled hair. Simply just that, can emit such fierce sexual allure. Honestly, I'm confused about this marriage. Lady Oichi's eyes open widely. The look of uneasiness can be clearly grasped. Therefore, to dispel the uneasiness, I caress her cheek gently. However, the result is great. Oichi, you are an extremely great woman. To the extent that you don't suit me at all. That's . Lady Oichi shakes her head in disapproval, denying my claim. That is not true. Nagamasa-sama is a wonderful person. Esteemed older brother thinks of Nagamasa-sama very highly, too. Furthermore, seventh realm. Esteemed older brother, Anu-sama, yeah. I thought so. The unusual young talent that remains in Japanese history, Nagamasa Azai, whose clan became independent from his father's generation from Rakuku clan, and then amassed great influence in northern Omi. It's natural that Nobunaga would want to win over Nagamasa to his side, and would also think so highly to send over Lady Oichi who is also his younger sister. The pure-hearted Lady Oichi would hear the heroic tales of Nagamasa from Nobunaga, which would then awaken her affection. By the way, the women of this period aren't allowed to act freely much, and speaking of love that was worth listening to, hearing heroic tales of her partner who she has not met, it was normal that she would fall in love. But I am not the Nagamasa-sama that Lady Oichi heard from the heroic tales that Nobunaga has told her. Because I'm not the Nagamasa Azai which people learn from Japanese history, and I just had no choice but to replace him. Oichi, tell me. I ask with a serious tone while playing with Lady Oichi's lips with my fingertips. Are you a bride of the Azai clan or my bride? Lady Oichi slowly got up as she embraced me who was nervous. It gives me a mixed feeling of security and arousal when the pair of soft hills smash together into my chest. I'm . In my chest, Lady Oichi tries to slowly speak her words clearly. Not willing to miss hearing any of her words, I hug Lady Oichi's shoulders to my chest. I'm Nagamasa-sama's wife. That's so. Yes, although I met Nagamasa-sama for the first time today, but. Lady Oichi smiles sweetly as she strongly embraces me. I understood at first glance. It's really nice. For me to become your dear wife. Thank you. I drop a kiss onto Lady Oichi, not only once but time and time again. Then, Lady Oichi's body gradually loses strength and finally falls back onto the futon. As I look into her face, behind her extreme shyness I could see feelings of passion and lust mixed in. Oichi, you are my dear wife. Yes. Oichi. Is Nagamasa-sama's wife. I, being on top, overlap her lips with mine. Although Lady Oichi still felt embarrassed, she accepted my kiss while feeling heated. Both of my hands caress all over her body. Her smooth back, narrow waist, toned stomach, and soft butt. I couldn't endure, so I inserted my tongue into her mouth. Sensing my tongue, Lady Oichi fell in a daze as her body grew timid. How. My tongue reaches hers. Surprised, she tries to pull back inside. My tongue then pursues, and pokes hers which then tensed up. Continuing from before, her tongue resigned and eventually loses its stiffness. I won't overlook it. For Lady Oichi to surrender her mouth, I entangle my tongue around hers. Lady Oichi body trembles timidly. The more I entangle my tongue, the more she trembles. Apparently, her tongue seems to be her erogenous zone. No Nagamasa-sama. Don't. NNN. However, she appears to be desperately refusing pleasure. Whatever the reason is, Nagamasa didn't know it. Because of her desperately averting her face, I give up giving her a French kiss. Having no other choice, I returned to her abundant chest, then I suddenly noticed. That's right, I'm originally not from this world. I remember reading an article about the history of Japanese clans. In Japan, before the time that women's rights were recognized, it was considered taboo for women to actively seek pleasure from sex. In other words, Lady Oichi, who is resisting her own lust, is the ordinary attitude that a normal female would show in this time. However, it was said in the article that it was taboo for women to get pleasure from sex. If that is the public principle, it will come to an end. Human beings establish customs to moderate, so that people will not be criticized by the eyes of society. Remembering that, I took Lady Oichi's lips, forcefully inserting my tongue inside as I lick around. Lady Oichi put up resistance, but disregarding it, I crawl my tongue over her gums and under jaw. The will to resist gradually vanishes from her body, as she finally relaxes completely. Her body then trembles as she starts to feel the pleasure I was giving. Ah! Nagamasa-sama. Releasing her mouth, Lady Oichi, with sleepy eyes, takes advantage and raises her voice. What is it, Oichi? When I asked the question, she put her hand on my chest as if she was expecting something. She rose up as she approached. I, who was confident, was about to push my son, who lost control, into her crotch but stopped. Brushing her head gently, she purred, also showing a gentle smile. While caressing her body with one hand for some time, I neared my mouth towards her ear while she wasn't paying attention and asked. Oichi. Can you hear me? Yes, what is it? Ah. Lady Oichi completely melted to a sweet voice, which runs a pleasant sensation along my spine. Dangerous, it's gradually becoming unbearable. If poorly done, I will soon explode by accident before I insert it. Something like that. Lady Oichi's body and voice can surely tempt any men. To whoever can embrace such a wonderful woman as his wife will be the luckiest man in the world. Well, it's me right now. However, for this reason, I think. To not develop this supreme woman to my liking, then I can't call myself a man. She has the heart of a maiden, but the husband, who sometimes embraces her, gives her pleasure like a prostitute while her back trembles. Although as I finish the act, and as her true self returns and blushes in embarrassment, I earnestly agonize for this peerless beautiful girl. Ah, isn't she supreme? And I, who is the husband to Lady Oichi, will personally develop her into the ideal wife. However, I will not force it. Lady Oichi will first know a man today, and become a woman. If I leave an unpleasant image during sex, future development projects would be interrupted, and I don't want there to be bad blood with something I hold dear. It is absolutely necessary when having her learn pleasure, to moderate between teasing and being gentle because of her shyness. No doubt, as a fellow man said, it is easier said than done. Oichi. Would you tell me? Yes. If it's for Nagamasa-sama. It seems that Lady Oichi's words have considerably softened. It must be because her heart has dissolved from sexual activities. While relieving the tension by rubbing her soft chest, I ask Lady Oichi. Please tell me, between you and me. What do you expect from a husband? Is there some technique you'd like to use in the bedroom? That's, yawn as I caress and rub my wife's nipple, her obscene body shakes timidly. But unlike before, the mood seems to somehow be advancing. Oichi, you are my wife. My only wife. I'll live with you, hand in hand. Therefore, I want to know everything about you. Is that just my selfishness? Lady Oichi's face turned to one filled with intense lust, finally seeming to resign herself. With both of her soft hands, she grabs mine and guides them to her chest. Wani-sama said Mamen. In the bedroom, men usually start by playing with women's breasts. Indeed. I start massaging both of her abundant chest with my hands, as I ask Lady Oichi, what's next? And then. A gentleman on the woman's teat. Ah. Teat. My fingertips crawl on Lady Oichi's areola, while being careful as to not touch the nipples. On occasion, her body will wriggle lewdly. Is it because of the worry from the constant pleasure, or the desire to stimulate her nipples? Before long, Lady Oichi's ideals vanished as she resigned herself and says, "The way you are licking my teat is like a child sucking. No. Sama. Yes. Ah. Mao, stop it, this is embarrassing. Nagamasa. Sama. Don't say such things, I'm doing what you told me. Ah. Don't please. I lick and suck her teat as Lady Oichi said. Is this good? Here. PL. Please stop. NN. Well, this is good. No matter what, Oichi, this time here I will embrace you. As I whispered in her ears, I played with Lady Oichi's erect nipple with my fingertips, in order to discipline her. Don't say teat, won't you say nipple. Ni. Nipple. That's right, there will be a punishment if you don't say it, so learn it. I understand. Nevertheless, no matter what period, I think all men will do the same. Men are weak to breasts. I think this is a universal fact in human history. Even though the various techniques men used have advanced, the essential contents are not that different from what it was in the past. While thinking of my slight discovery, I tore off Lady Oichi's nipple which I was teasing. She seems to react sensitively somehow, when I pluck my tongue off from her sharp nipples. I will remember that. Hey, Oichi, what's next? You. Air. You. Nagamasa. Sama. Anyways, I have a daring, sinister face as I urge Lady Oichi, who is hesitating to continue. Then I won't understand anything at all. I want to know more about you. Nagamasa. Sama. Oichi. I tenderly embrace her in my arms, as she began to shed tears. The noble daughter of Oda who has been declared as an unrivaled beauty is sobbing under my chest. It seems I teased her too much. I don't really know how to hold back. As an apology, I catch her chin with my fingers as I gently kiss her. Tears run down in front of me. That's right. The women of this age, especially ones like the noble daughter of Oda, would not even think that in their first night their husband would tease them. After spending some time kissing, Lady Oichi takes a breath and looks, as our mutual lips create a silver bridge. Thus, I lead my hand down to her secret place. The teat. No. Ni. Nipple, the man would continue sucking the nipple. The sound of damp water rises, as my fingers become slippery. At the same time, Lady Oichi's body jumped. Ah! A splendid woman will be penetrated here, and can produce tons of children. No. Sama taught you that. That is right. P. Please stop. Nagamasa. Sama. Eat it, as I inserted my finger inside of Lady Oichi and shake vigorously as I rub her clitoris with my palm, which caused Lady Oichi's body a huge convulsion as she tenses tightly inside. It seems that she climaxed. Oh well, her body has been caressed and tormented since a while ago. You. But putting that aside, the problem now is that Lady Oichi started to genuinely cry. Well, I'm horrible. Didn't I just think a while ago to not overdo it? Although, it is self-justified that it was inevitable. When a peerless beauty opens her body defenselessly, you can no longer keep reason during your first night. With that said, it can't be helped if this is the only excuse. As to lift Lady Oichi's mood, I bent over and leave behind a rain of kisses on her. My apologies, Nagamasa. Sama. Lady Oichi sobbed uncontrollably, as she earnestly apologizes. Though nothing bad happened, I'm at fault. But I. It's our first time. I didn't want to give the impression I was a shameful and lewd woman who had feelings through having sex. Such a woman, I definitely did not want Nagamasa-sama to think poorly of. That's okay. While holding Lady Oichi tightly, a feeling of extraordinary happiness wrapped around me. My mouth, arms, body, and Lady Oichi made me feel good. It's simply great to be born a male. Even if it doesn't match women's sense of values in this period, I still feel extreme happiness. Hey! Oichi, do you dislike me? Nagamasa-sama is mean, but I don't dislike it. I can never hate you. That's so. Then why? If so, why do you reject the pleasure I'm giving you? That's. I want Oichi, who's receiving me, to feel good. I don't desire for you to feel unpleasant. So, when remembering above all, Lady Oichi's resistance to the sexual pleasure, I, as the good husband, am entirely at fault. In this period, the wife can't defy the wishes of the husband. In this case, the wife can't refuse the pleasure which her husband is giving. I'm completely at fault. It was inevitable that it will feel good. If she shifts the responsibility, it is possible to advance to the next stage of Lady Oichi development project. I'm not bad. Yuri not. Is it okay, to feel good? It's okay. Do you despise such a shameful woman? There is no way I would. You're my wife, and I'm glad that I can have you as one. I understand. Lady Oichi smiles as she gently caresses my chest. Nagamasa-sama is somewhat similar to esteemed older brother. I'm like Nobunaga-sama. Yes. Destroying the concept of common sense one after another, and taking in the new world. Just like a man. Is that so? Somehow that I feel relieved. Amen. This interaction which is based on what I have done, no doubt she is a goddess. Well, for me, who wants to take Lady Oichi, you can say this is a world dazzled with lust. If I say anything now at this stage, all trust will certainly be lost, so I remain silent. With the tip of my finger, I lifted up Lady Oichi's bangs and kissed her, causing her heart to melt. As I stroke her back and stomach while giving her a French kiss, I then touch her vagina with my fingertips. Her body twitched in response, but I paid it no heed and simply continued. She writhes earnestly in my arms as she utters a cute panting moan. Ah, I'm getting hornier. A water-like sound could be heard as viscous liquid gushes out of Lady Oichi's vagina, and with that, my heart started beating excitedly. I separate my body from Lady Oichi's, and rub my son against her crotch. Our body fluids mix, creating a lewd gushing sound. Lady Oichi's body rises up slightly, and looking at this lewd play with senile eyes, I smile. I fit my son into Lady Oichi's crotch as I slowly thrust my hips. She closes her eyes with a calm expression, offering no resistance at all. Turning this girl into a woman, I'm already prepared to make her my wife. As expected of princess of a samurai clan, brave. Ah. You. However, Lady Oichi can't conceal her anguished voice. Her meat hole is severely small, warm, and fleshy. Being amazed at receiving her first man, her fleshy walls try to push me out, refusing any the peerless beauty in history, parts with the proof of her maidenhood that she can never get back. Now, I'll do considerable damage if I overdo it. I came to a conclusion. There are truly many different varieties of people with various reactions to the hymen. There are girls who act cool when teared quickly, while the other girls are acute to pain and can't stand up for a day. Lady Oichi might be the latter. Surely enough, I've already broken through the hymen in the narrow vaginal hole. In this case, her tight fleshy walls, which refuses a man like a fortress, is the proof of a woman who will be an excellent bearer of children. I've decided to change strategy. I stop moving, with only the tip inside her. Nagamasa-sama, why did you stop? Lady Oichi asks in a weak tone. As I caress Lady Oichi's head, I kiss her deeply. Lady Oichi responds happily, this is a nice trend. I grope her chest with my left hand and felt her clitoris with the other while lustily devouring her mouth. Lady Oichi's body shook greatly for a moment as I touched her clitoris with the tip of my finger. Covering her mouth, I tenderly come back to the woman's greatest erogenous zone. My son, with the tip still in, still felt a lot of love juice flowing out. The figure of Lady Oichi being violated in her mouth while her nipples are being toyed with. Her clitoris being played with, while the gland still sits inside her vagina. Ah, if I've ever go back to my original world again, I'd like to have a video of this. What reaction would Lady Oichi show, when she objectively sees her own silliness? That dream won't come true, but I can still wish for it. Ah, stop. Stop moving, Nagamasa. It may not be to your liking, but don't you want to feel good? Already your love juices are flowing, my waist too is becoming sticky waiting to move on. No, that's not true. Not true Nagamasa. Would you say it feels good? It sounds like it feels really good. Ah. Don't. No. NNNN. It was like a vice was firmly clutching my glands. I pushed my waist out with all my strength the moment I felt a contraction. Then I slipped my proud son inside Lady Oichi's meat hole, and was swallowed tightly. Lady Oichi voiced a completely sweet cry and is intoxicated from the afterglow of the climax. It hardly seems she feels the pain of losing her virginity. That's right, human sense of pain is managed by the brain. Because the brain is busy controlling the hormones for pleasure, even if pain is signaled for a slight moment while the head is filled with pleasure, for example, the moment of climax, it can't accurately convey the pain signals. Thank you, Oichi. Nagamasa. As I caressed Lady Oichi's cheek, she had an expression of true happiness as she added her hand to mine. Next. I'm sorry, Oichi. What do you mean? I'll pull out soon, just for a moment, did it felt good? Lady Oichi smiled when I asked that while our lower bodies were still connected. I've already felt pleasant enough as is. If my husband isn't able to feel good, then I've failed as a wife. Thank you. As I dropped to lightly kiss Lady Oichi, I began to shake my waist at full strength with the intention to ejaculate. Basically, I'd still like to see the state of a woman agonized with overwhelming pleasure, but still I have to end this pleasantly. My glands reaches the deepest part of Lady Oichi. While my proud son pokes the womb's entrance ahead, Lady Oichi writhes in agony. However, I feel really good. To put it this way, it can't be helped that the length of my son exceeds the depth of Lady Oichi's vagina. Pushing in far enough to bully the tip of her womb is something I would like to develop, but it seems it will take some time. Yeah. No. Deep. It's deep. I'm sorry, please endure it a bit. NN. As I repeatedly penetrated her, I noticed Lady Oichi's state gradually change. The vaginal wall, which used to refuse a man completely, now flatters my stiff, hard penis as it tightly squeezes to wring out semen. Nagamasa.sama, 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 Nagamasa.sama. Is she familiar with it? Lady Oichi, who is now writhing in agony as she beautifully calls my name in a weak voice, tightens firmly while I move my waist to a missionary position. While Lady Oichi's beautiful, large breasts shake intensely as they follow the rhythmic movements of her lower waist, the feeling of ejaculation also swells up. It seems to be gradually getting better, isn't it? No. This. Although toying with her body must have felt good, Lady Oichi hides her face shyly with both hands. I took both of her hands with one of mine, and pressed them atop her head. Lady Oichi shakes her head in refusal, but I didn't yield. No, I want you to show me your foolishness more because you're pretty. Alas, it's sad that men have time limits. To be able to endure this much when nearly going all out, either I'm a professional or a main character of a light novel or an eroge. The peerless beauty pinned down and laid out before me, is showing such an unladylike appearance. I deprive her of her virginity, and now will implant my pleasure into her pure body. Suppressing both of her breasts, which were swaying rhythmically with her hips, I licked around her stiff nipples and sucked. Lady Oichi released a lovely voice as she clings to me. Going to pull out. Oh. Okay. As I grind my waist to rub on Lady Oichi's clitoris, I forced the tip of my son against her womb. Soon, trembling fearfully, I couldn't endure the abrupt tightness inside her vagina, and with all my strength, the amount of sperm I accumulated exploded inside her innermost part. I released Lady Oichi's waist while feeling nervous due to the sperm gushing out like a open faucet. Nagamasa. Sama. As her feeble hand, which stuck out unsteadily mid-air, was grasped, she shut her eyes in relief. The breathing of a person sleeping was soon heard. As expected, she used up all her strength for her first time. While hesitating to pull out my son, which was feeling really good inside her, after a while, I finally decided to unwillingly to pull out. Goppery. As her flattering meat hole spreads, an indecent sound is made, and a yellow-tinged cloudy liquid spills down her fine butt and spreads into the futon. Ah, the person who is in charge of morning cleaning is going to have difficulties. Giving the impression that it's someone else's problem, I hug Lady Oichi with both of my arms. It's warm, soft, and feels so good. This is the best hugging pillow ever. However, I can't only have sex with Lady Oichi. Yes, there is a lot to do. Because I am the Sengoku Daimyo Nagamasa Azai and the brother-in-law of Nobunaga Oda. I must use diplomacy for domestic affairs, and operate the military if necessary. I would likely betray or be betrayed at times, but that's the Sengoku period. My environment will change greatly tonight. The true bout will start tomorrow morning. The bridal night with Lady Oichi also ended safely for the time being. From now on, I will handle political affairs in the day, and hold Lady Oichi at night. Nagamasa. Sama. As Nagamasa made up his mind once more, caressing the cheek of Lady Oichi who is calmly breathing as she sleeps. I will work hard and train strenuously to protect my life and my beautiful wife. Amen. That's not bad. I think that ideal lifestyle isn't bad at all. Early morning in the Sengoku period. While firmly embracing Lady Oichi, I fell into a deep slumber. Chapter 3. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Preparation for Territorial Development. Nagamasa.sama, Nagamasa.sama. A pleasant voice entered my head as I rocked back and forth. Slowly, I regained consciousness. As I rose from the sweat-stained futon, I straightened my back and yawned loudly. Off to the side I could see Lady Oichi sitting in seiza with a pleasant smile on her face. Morning, Oichi. Yes, good morning. Lady Oichi said, as she bowed in a Mitsubishi pose. She was dressed in a beautiful new kimono, and appeared as though she had just finished grooming herself. It's as if she is going to a grand event. Could something auspicious have happened today? No, this should just be a typical morning the day after a wedding. Would you like some cold water? Ah, thank you. A nearby maid handed a ladle filled with water to Lady Oichi, and then respectfully offered some to me. After receiving the ladle, I gulped it down all at once. I ended up sweating quite a lot last night, most likely due to yesterday's intense exercise. Water permeated every corner of my body. As the cold water woke me up, I remembered something important. Hey, Oichi. Yes, what can I assist you with? Lady Oichi responded in a soft tender voice while maintaining her Mitsubishi pose. What a wife, I feel like this is the source of every married couple's pride. Well, I thought sitting in a seiza would be fine, but I'd better be attentive and ask her how she's feeling. I'm slightly worried. As I returned the ladle to her, I asked, how are you feeling? Does your body hurt? Ah. As Lady Oichi's face reddened, an audible bon sound could be heard. Well, last night certainly was wonderful. Although it was a first for both of us, we ended up climaxing quite a few times. However, considering that she was a virgin, it must have been a considerable strain on her body. And that's exactly what I'm worried about. I was worried because you fainted last night, but you look fine now. I'm very sorry. It's inexcusable to have slept before Nagamasa-sama, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I am once again reminded of the customs held during this period as I gently stroke Lady Oichi's frantically bowing head, while she begged for forgiveness. That's right. In the Sengoku period, the wife is never permitted to sleep earlier than the husband. There are many reasons for this. The prime reason being a counter-measure against assassination. For example, even a proud and fearless general with a muscular body is defenseless when he's sleeping. You can imagine how easy it would be. In the Sengoku period, it's not uncommon for a general to be assassinated in the dead of night. Because of this, it is the wife's duty to protect the defenseless husband. That said, I thought it was an impossible task since it would be over if an actual assassin invaded the bedroom. Despite this, assassinations were taken very seriously during this period. In other words, a wife who foolishly sleeps before her husband is reviled as a wicked woman who doesn't fulfill her wifely obligations. In the end, Lady Oichi, who's married to a Sengoku daimyo, was guilty of making a mistake of the highest order. For that very reason, she was feverishly apologizing. It's also my responsibility since I teased you so much, so don't worry about it. Nagamasa-sama, but. It seems that Lady Oichi won't allow herself to be forgiven. Based on the ethics of this age, you could call it common sense. Nevertheless, being a modern Japanese kid myself, I need to be open to her feelings. I wonder how I would feel about punishing someone for something I think is perfectly fine. No, wait. Coming up with something good, I put a hand on one of Lady Oichi's shoulders. I understand, then a punishment will be given. Yes. Preparing herself, she turns over as her big round eyes desperately look at me. It's cute. As expected, Lady Oichi might possess a dog's characteristics. I said as quiet as possible while thinking these things, this evening, I'll embrace you. Having an absent-minded expression, Lady Oichi immediately cast her eyes down in shame when she understood. Like that, I whisper in her ears. Oichi, prepare yourself. I will fully chastise you tonight. Remembering last night's foolery, Lady Oichi covered her face with both hands. It really is cute. That alone makes me want to pull her down into the futon and immediately bully her some more. However, that line of thinking would not do. After all, what's waiting today is the introductory ceremony. The introductory ceremony is a literal event. After the bridal night is over, the clan head and the wife, now a married couple, will greet the vassals. Remembering the event, I now understand why Lady Oichi is wearing a gorgeous kimono. Truly, I am quite helpless. To have forgotten such a thing. I called out to Lady Oichi as she hid her face in worry, slightly disgusted with myself. Hey Oichi, is it almost time? Please bring my clothes here. Yes. I will take care of it and arrange it for you immediately. Once again, Lady Oichi bowed to me in a Mitsubishi, as she began to pass instructions to the maids. By the way, the maids, or vassals, of Lady Oichi are not from the Azai clan, but instead, adhere to the Oda clan and only attend to Lady Oichi. Normally, Lady Oichi's maids are also responsible for her protection. For example, they stand watch so random insolent people are unable to enter the bedroom, their unsung hero-like existences. Oh. If that's the case, did they hear the pillow talk between Lady Oichi and me? For a maiden like her to have been so disheveled over such a thing as Oichi's shameful voice, could those women have possibly heard everything? I linked my arms and groaned "Tomo," while looking at Lady Oichi promptly giving out instructions to the maids with equally serious expressions on their faces. The women of the Sengoku period are strong indeed. As for me, I absolutely hate it. If my superiors were to vividly raise flirtatious voices at me, it'd definitely become awkward talking to them starting the day after. The maid received the kimono that my page brought before Lady Oichi's room and then respectfully gave it to me. However, I am of the modern era, so I do not know how to don a kimono at all. Even for a reason like that, I will not reveal my faults. Oichi, please dress me. Why? Yes, I understand. I ask this while showing the maids as much dignity as possible. As Lady Oichi cheerfully approaches me, she delightedly starts helping me change clothes. I looked at the astonished maids. Well, their reactions are natural. They would skillfully adapt to the circumstances. In summary, after spending my bridal night with Lady Oichi, I stayed in her room without returning to my own. Originally, one would return to their own room to change clothes, but instead, I sent for them through an intermediary person from the Oda clan. It's also something that someone of a page's status would normally do. But of all things, to have your legal wife be the one to dress you up. I would appear to be someone lacking in common sense. Nonetheless, Lady Oichi is Lady Oichi. Far from bearing an unpleasant face, she seems to be rather cheerful instead as she begins to undress my outer garments. Then she took the wet washcloth on the side and starts to gently wipe my skin. How is it, Nagamasa-sama? Ah, it feels pleasant. That's great. I'm glad. With her uttermost efforts, Lady Oichi washed me from the neck to shoulders, cleaned my back with the washcloth, and then wiped my chest and abdomen. There are no showers in the Sengoku period, so the only method to wash off the night sweat was to using a washcloth to wipe it. However, this is usually done by a female servant. Even I know that, but a while back, I used to take good care of my esteemed older brother. Nobunaga-sama. Yes. Esteemed older brother would yell "Oichi. Hot. Wipe," then abruptly intrude into my bedroom urging me. Although, when I wiped his back with a washcloth as he complained that it's too troublesome, he would praise me afterward. Foo-foo. Lady Oichi wipes my arm gently while smiling. I longed for this. To be able to take care of my husband first thing in the morning. You resemble esteemed older brother, so I thought that you would be delighted. Is that so? Yes, I know this is an immodest and unusual thing to do. When Lady Oichi puts away the wet washcloth, she begins to skillfully change my clothes. Truly an excellent skill. I'm really surprised. I felt admiration while checking the condition of the kimono and hakama that I was swiftly dressed in. Isn't she more skillful at dressing others than my pages? Thank you, Oichi. Well then, shall we go? Yes. Certainly. With that, Lady Oichi and I, accompanied by her vassals, proceeded towards the great hall. There were countless men. And everyone bowed their heads. It was very similar to the scene when I first arrived here. However, the difference from that day is the fact that Lady Oichi is by my side this time. Nevertheless, she was also bowing deeply to the vassals of the Azai clan. Among the hundreds of people in the great hall, only my head is held high. As for this feeling, no matter how many times it happens, I don't think I will become accustomed to this. As I was thinking these things, the usual uncle, Tsukechika Azai raised his head and steps forward before me. And then, he bows with both knees and hands on the floor as he shouts to everyone in the great hall to hear. Nagamasa-sama, the wedding ceremony held with Lady Oichi has been safely carried out. With this, the prosperity of the Azai clan will be unshakable, our relations with the Oda clan will be firm, and the unity with both clans will be tenacious. Many people are said to have happily paid their respects. Then, another middle-aged man steps forward and offers a similar congratulatory address to Sukechika's. By the way, this middle-aged man is a Ko Kayatsuna. He is the head of the Azai daimyo's ministers, and is one of the Azai generals. When Kayatsuna steps back, a super-celebrity of the Sengoku period that even I know comes forward. Kaiho Tsunachika. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who is referred to as a famous general, mentioned to another famous general that Tsunachika is my master in the art of war. As expected, an amazing person's aura is different. Their words different. An intense power is felt in each individual word of their congratulatory speech. Finally, Amanamori Kayasada steps forward. He is responsible for the political affairs of the Azai clan, but is still a great general who leads his forces on the battlefield. When Kayasada finishes his congratulatory speech, Sukechika steps forward to the front once more. I see, only the chief vassals can speak, otherwise I would only be hearing a silent congratulatory speech. I think I caught a glimpse of the essence that the vassal group possesses in the Azai clan. Throughout the Sengoku period, most feudal lords adopted a strict hierarchical system. Even if the succeeding generation of chief vassals were incompetent, they are still valued highly. The talented rookies, on the other hand, are usually ignored. However, using such a method is an obstruction for territorial growth. Emphasis on this point has not received enough consideration, I think. Besides the strong economic powers known as Mino no Ari, Oda Nobunaga was able to rapidly grasp power and rule the Sengoku period because he ignored the hierarchical system, and recruited talented people from all over the country. For example, Sadakatsu Murai is a sharp administrative bureaucrat whom Oda clan is proud of, although he was born in Azai clan territory. There was the fact that he abandoned the Azai clan, which was still attached to the old ways, and passed to Owari. Besides that, there are a lot of bureaucrats and generals who were born in the Omi province who went to the Oda clan. Omi posse's an environment and atmosphere that makes it difficult to cultivate crops but is suitable for producing valuable human resources. Unless we abolish this, the Azai clan territory will not prosper. Well then, with this, the introductory ceremony is over. Sukechika Azai declares, with a voice that booms over the great hall, the ending of the gathering. It's now or never. I waited my time until the vassals raised their head in the great hall, and hit my knee with a great pan. Immediately, several hundreds of eyes concentrate at me. That's right, the introductory ceremony is over, extending it is impossible. However, as for the head of a large noble family, if they were to do such an act to grab the attention of everyone, it's the same thing as declaring to the vassals, there is still more to come. Not only Sukechika, but also the chief vassals of the Azai clan Kayatsuna and Kayasada trembled as they said, "What's the matter?" Also Tsunachika, who doesn't move an inch, silently observes me with a sharp eye. However, I will not be shaken by such gazes. I strain my voice from the bottom of my abdomen to reverberate throughout the great hall, while directing small movements filled with dignity. All of the male members now in the great hall prostrate themselves. Now, the Azai clan and the Oda clan are relative by marriage. When we allied ourselves with the Oda clan, it was the rise of a momentous day. I spin the words over with added intonation, as the beats fly overhead the vassals. It is the voice that determines whether I can make a person follow. I can assure you that voice and intonation are critical. No matter what, if an unskilled person makes a speech, even a good one, will be ignored. But if it's a skilled person, even if it's foolish, it will be praised. Since the dawn of history, humans are just like that. However, it is certainly necessary that I attract their attention by any means, if I want to develop the territory I desire. Therefore it is a fact, that what we need is a rich country, strong army. 7th, slogan in the Meiji era referring to the government's goal for the country. Zawa. Briefly the great hall became stirred. Why? Because the phrase such as rich country and strong army never existed in Japan during the Sengoku period. The impact included in those 4 kanji was severe. It beat the vassals of the Azai clan clean. To make a country rich, and to build an army, strong, is not a task that can be accomplished in a single night. The chief vassals who were prostrated on their knees rose and focused their attention on my every movement. For the sake of making this country rich, we need rice for the soldiers in need of money. Kaitsuna. I named the first person in the list of daimyo's minister and asked. In order to realize this, who is qualified for Azai? That's. After Kaitsuna was pondering in thought momentarily, Kayasada was seen. I propose Kayasada. Dano, to be qualified. Kayasada. Yes. He bows, and stares at me with a serious expression. Slowly, I ask Kayasada in a low voice. In the current Azai clan, what do you think is insufficient? Kayasada is an existence like the 2 bundles in a straw sandal, handling the political affairs in the Azai clan and also leading the army. Naturally, the burden is so large that it's unimaginable. Why did Kayasada have to act that way, and why did it reach this conclusion? To him, asking, what is lacking, the response was already decided. It was like asking a leading question. People, there isn't enough people. That's right. I mustered the entirety of my voice and yelled. People, there aren't enough human resources. My loud voice echoes. There was no sound from the great hall. Every man held his breath, not missing any of my continuing words. Today is the turning point where the Azai clan is connected to the Oda clan. With this opportunity, we should be reborn. It is necessary to make the country richer, and the army stronger. Have you already forgotten those days where we surrendered to the Rokaku clan? Do you want to go back to those days, every day? Though, I didn't experience the time when the Azai clan was a vassal to the Rokaku clan. It was liberally discussed in countless stories, and is a historical fact. However, these words seem to have shaken the vassals of the Azai clan. Small sounds were said, that's right, agreed, I concur. Nevertheless passionate voices began to sprout in the great hall. I declare to you this day. Never again will we be humiliated again, and we will make this country rich. But I shouted. The men in the great hall lengthened their bodies. For this sake, I will need your power. Also, I have to know you deeply. So. As I wielded a clenched fist. The men in the great hall also raised their arms. It was really simple and cute. For this reason, I wish to talk to you individually. Oh. The great hall shook. It's unheard of. For the daimyo, head of the clan, to arrange the opportunity and equally meet the vassals individually, it is absolutely impossible. Although it is considerably beneficial, for the seniors of the Azai clan and for the newcomers. The reason being, to re-establish the connection that ties the seniors with the Azai clan, and also give the newcomers the opportunity to make their faces well known. As for me, it will be profitable in a double meaning. First, because I, who finished a trip, don't know most of the vassals' faces and it's the perfect chance to match the names with their faces. Lastly, if their disposition of me is bad in the end, I will raise their loyalty in this interview, and draw them into my ideal workforce to develop the territory. Sukechika. Why, yes, I summoned Sukechika and ordered, coordinate the schedule for the interview between me and the vassals. It is a great task to determine the future of the Azai clan. As I said with a solemn face, Sukechika began to lament, such an important task, for this old man. Nevertheless, even old men cry. Then, I will entrust it to Sukechika. Saying so, I left the great hall with Lady Oichi. That moment, the sound of dirty men were heard behind us. Lady Oichi yelped and jumped a little, as if the dreadful roar was mistaken for a battle cry. Now men fueled with loyalty started to rise. I will be the first, no, I will be, as Sukechika approached them. Either way, the seeds are sown. Later, I will be using their passion for developing this territory of the Azai clan, Japan will be the best. No, I must bring prosperity that hasn't been seen before in this world. Above all, the strongest advantage is that I have seen the future history before me. I know historically how the economy will develop, and how society will change. Let's do this. I clenched my fist, burning with determination. Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Azai clan relatives. I escorted Lady Oichi to her room and was greeted by her attendants. Because I personally escorted Lady Oichi to her room, the expressions on the faces of her attendants were ones of great surprise. Why this was so, was of course very obvious. For a general in the Sengoku period, his wife is considered to be very much like an adornment, and a large majority of people thought this way. Besides, an accessory could be changed, or even change hands, or might even be cast away. It was a very sad thing. That's why the chamberlains were surprised by my courteous treatment towards Lady Oichi. By the way, historically, Nagamasa was pushed by his father, Hisamasa, to take the retainer of the Rakugo clans, Hirai Sadatake's daughter as his wife. However, she was sent back when fighting for their independence from the Rakugo clan. The woman mentioned was named Yuriko, and she loved Nagamasa from the bottom of her heart. It was said that Nagamasa had also desired her. The situation between the clans, which lead to war, caused Nagamasa and Yuriko to split apart. After being sent back to the Rakugo clan from the Azai clan, Yuriko, who still kept thinking of Nagamasa, wouldn't marry into any of the other clans, so she became a nun. She didn't allow even a man's finger to touch her, passing away alone in her small retreat. It was a sad history between a man and a woman in the Sengoku period. Well, I who came from the modern era could only think of these kinds of matters as cruel, but I couldn't do anything about it now. The Azai clan's independence war happened before I replaced him. Above all, what would happen to the Azai clan if I recalled my former legal wife when I already received Lady Oichi from the Oda clan as my legal wife? I'm at a loss, since I would need to treat Yuriko, my former legal wife, as a concubine. For women of that period, it was very cruel, ruthless, and miserable that you would want to commit suicide. But really, there was nothing I could do about it. As Lady Oichi and I parted, I whispered into her ear, "Be prepared this evening." While her face was blushing bright red, she got on her knees and bowed her head down in a mitsubishi for me. She thought that she didn't need to do that in such a place. I entrusted Lady Oichi to the maids as I advanced through the corridor. When I looked back a little, Lady Oichi was still bowing her head. How can you be so pure-hearted? Thinking that, my heart eased a bit right before the biggest obstacle today, the clan meeting. "So you came, Nagamasa." As I entered the hall, a giant fat man called out to me. Moreover, he sat in the seat of honor. 19 men were waiting in the lower seats. With the attitude and the air of the large man, I inferred that this man must be Nagamasa's father, Hisamasa Azai. I was summoned to a room inside the inner citadel of Odani Castle called the Room of Crouching Dragons. It was a special place that only the relatives of the Azai clan could go in and out of. Today was the third day since the marriage ceremony with the Oda clan. The men from the Azai clan, whose concerns were the policy that determined the future of the Azai clan, came to congratulate Nagamasa with gifts. It was the clan meeting. What about Tsukechika? Immediately after taking a seat, Hisamasa rebuked me. After all, after being forced to retire, the father and son's relationship would be strained. I entrusted him with a task. I replied with an answer sharply, so that I wouldn't be pushed back and pressured from Hisamasa. He continued speaking, painting it with criticism as if he wasn't pleased with my answer. He can't come to the clan meeting. Yes, it is related to the future of the Azai clan. The great number of relatives gathered in the hall turned into a frenzy. Well, I could understand why. It's because they came here to discuss that. The Azai clan has so few relatives as it is, therefore it was said that there wasn't much internal strife like what could be seen with the Oda clan and Takeda clan, but this was definitely a lie. Though this wasn't very well known by the public, historically, one of the root causes of the Azai clan's downfall was because of the betrayal of one of the relatives in the clan named Itsuji. Elder brother, will you hear my story? A voice passed through the hall, and it belonged to Masamoto Azai, the younger brother of Nagamasa, who was an administrative official in charge of the finances of Odani Castle. By the way, this is another historical fact that society doesn't know, but Nagamasa has 4 younger brothers including Masamoto, and he also has 3 sisters. What is it, Masamoto? Hisamasa asked with a displeased voice. In that instant, I presumed that Masamoto, the excellent younger brother who was outstanding even among us brothers, wasn't thought well of by Hisamasa. However, Masamoto gave his familiar bow and turned to face me. He's quite a good-looking guy. It's about the conversation a while ago, regarding the future of the Azai clan. There was a commotion in the hall. As expected, even the relatives probably never predicted that there would be no congratulatory address for Nagamasa or anything, that the essential part would be suddenly cut off. However, I judged from Masamoto's eyes and face that he was serious, and that it was something done after careful deliberation. The resolve to cause a controversy that went so far as to disregard the usual customs. Not bad. I liked it. I leaned forward and looked directly at Masamoto. I, on this occasion, believe that we should solidify our alliance with the Oda clan. The moment Masamoto stated his opinion, the hall divided. In the hall, there were eyes that criticized Masamoto's remark, and there were eyes that sent praise because of his brave remark, and their show of support was divided clearly. Masamoto, don't say such a foolish thing. A tall, brawny man hurled criticisms. Tsunekika Inoue. He is the brother-in-law of Hisamasa, who was the head predecessor. As Nagamasa's cousin, his authority was about the same. A clan with such absent-minded leadership will quickly sink into ruin. I'm disgusted with you establishing any more relations with the likes of those who rose up in the shogunate's office. What would the Asakura clan call us? The hall began to stir. Opposing opinions started since the very beginning of the clan meeting, so it was understandable, but I really couldn't tell if they were all just concerned with the Asakura clan. Could it be that among them, they think of the Azai clan as a vassal of the Asakura clan? However, I could understand why they would say such remarks. Because the Oda clan and the Asakura clan were both related to us through marriage, but they were far from being friendly to each other. The Oda clan was originally based on Ekizan, which was the base for the Asakura clan. The Asakura clan was a protector of a great clan that was called the Shiba clan, and just like them, the Oda clan was also the protector of the Shiba clan. Both clans were equal in status, however, the problem came from the root of the Nobunaga bloodline. Because the Oda where Nobunaga belonged to wasn't originated from the main family of the Oda clan that was the protector. In other words, he's from the branch family, but quickly rose to power and replaced the head of the clan. Because of this reason, the Asakura clan regarded Nobunaga, who was leading the Oda clan, with hostility. Considering that the Asakura clan was happily repressing other houses, and to suddenly have another clan like the Oda clan act so domineering, there was no way they wouldn't be displeased. Don't argue based on your emotions, Tsunekika. A single old man said it softly, however, there was a considerable force behind it. He was Akamasa Teya, the son-in-law of the founder of the Azai clan, Sukamasa, a warring state daimyo. He was the first-line successor for the Azai clan until Hisamasa was born. He was Hisamasa's rival until today, and was said to also often clash with him. Well, Masamoto Dano, I will respectfully listen to your foolish opinion. Yes. Masamoto bowed again, then raised his voice towards the group of relatives and me in the hall. Certainly, Nobunaga Dano was a branch clan member, but how much meaning does that have in this chaotic world now? Anger swelled up in some people. Naturally, an absolute authority was needed in this time and age. It's because doing it in a careless manner wasn't how samurais lived. However, Masamoto crushed their anger with one fact. Above all, our grandfather Sukamasa Azai. Didn't he set aside the governors, the Kayagaku clan, to establish our might? With only parentage, if we don't have power, then all we can do is be resigned to death and accept it. But Koreyasu Azai, who worked as an attendant to Hisamasa, emphasized his anger. It's already been 7 years and Nobunaga Dano still hasn't captured Mino yet. I also heard that the Saito clan has begun to regain power. In addition, the Asakura clan is supporting the Saito clan too. Do you think the Oda clan has the power to match that? I think so. All eyes were concentrated on the old man, who seemed like he would give out any time soon. Azai Nagayori. Sukamasa's third son, he who saw the history firsthand from the time when Azai raised arms against the Rokkaku clan until today, was a walking dictionary with the status of head elder. Coughing violently, Nagayori began to speak to his relatives with his thin voice. Consider the fact that the Oda clan. That Nobunaga Dano sent Lady Oichi to our master. Consider the fact that what Nobunaga Dano wanted was always a peace alliance, not a military alliance. While receiving assistance from the man by the side, Nagayori looked around to the people around Hisamasa and me. This is the sign of Nobunaga's confidence. That he will conquer Mino soon. Therefore, opening a road from Omi to Kyoto soon. Nobunaga Dano will conquer Mino this year, and destroy the Saito clan. If the Oda clan seizes Mino, will become the Oda's neighboring country. Over the border of Omi and Mino, the soldiers will glare at each other. That is why it should be obvious that we need to further our relations with them. This old man agrees with Masamoto Dano. This old man understands the importance of the road to the Azai clan to be open. How about it, milord? Bulmo. After I heard Nagayori words, I gazed around the hall and looked at Masamoto. He appeared to be quite tense. Both his fists were clenched tightly, and trembled slightly. However, the nervousness was natural. It's because of our stance that the division of the Azai clan into the Asakura faction and Oda faction was made clear. It's because we chose the path with countless confrontations against the relatives from the Asakura faction hereafter. But, I want to pay the maximum amount of respect for your courage and decision. The reason was because in politics, be it domestic or military affairs, others would show an ambiguous, non-committal attitude because they couldn't trust you. I conclude that Masamoto's suggestion is the right path. Nagamasa. You bastard, were you ensnared by princess of the Oda clan? Hisamasa, beside me, raised his angry voice. Do you intend to compromise our long-time pact with the Asakura clan? That's not my intention at all. I threw an angry voice back at Hisamasa. Hisamasa was surprised, and the once loud hall suddenly became quiet. It's not like I don't understand. In short, the act of shouting and defying the father, who was also the previous head of the clan, was viewed as the biggest act of violence in the Sengoku period towards the clan. As one would expect, the elders named Nagayori and Akamasa seemed surprised, and even Masamoto had his mouth agape. Oi, you're messing up the Ikemen image you painstakingly built up. However, without caring, I continued speaking. Siding with the Asakura clan, and siding with the Oda clan, these are things that aren't incompatible. It's not the case that if one is chosen, the other will disappear. We should value both as important. While looking around the reception hall, I glanced at Senekika and Koreyasu. Though, they looked away from me quickly. Especially, if Nobunaga Dano captures Mino, then the administration of the main road will be highly important. When the main road is maintained, traffic will increase, and human activity will be stimulated. We are in between Kyoto, which is one of the biggest places in the world, with Mino followed by Owari. There is not one foolish person who wouldn't use this. Masamoto's eyes shined when he looked at me. Nodding quietly, I raised my voice to the relatives. Everyone, there'll be no objections. We will deepen our relations with the Oda clan. Sure enough, in the Azai clan, the Asakura faction, including Hisamasa, already weren't opposing anymore. Elder brother. Oh, what is it, Masamoto? After the clan meeting, Masamoto and several other men ran after me in the hallway. Masamoto bowed to me with a cheerful face and said, "I apologize for what happened a while ago." To apologize before getting to the main issue. I felt that Masamoto was extremely Japanese-like. Well, it's a fact that he was Japanese. No, it was a constructive opinion. I said honestly. The people who yell Asakura, Asakura, don't appear to put themselves in the position of the Azai clan. They didn't study the real color of the Asakura clan through the viewpoint of us, the Azai clan, and didn't take advantage of this situation. Yes. I have also thought of this. Masamoto said so and turned his head towards the rear. Though, for father to feel in such a way. We brothers are ready to make an effort for elder brother and the Azai clan. Please, expect our active role in it. Ah. Is that so? While I nodded, I recognized the men behind Masamoto were Nagamasa's brothers. The name of Nagamasa's younger brothers from the oldest were Masamoto, Masayuki, Hiromasa. And there was Okazaki Enkyu, who was a priest in a temple shrine. He was Nagamasa's elder brother from a different mother. If you see his face, you could immediately discern his age, and his shaven head proved he was a priest. Hiromasa hasn't been born at that time yet, so fortunately I was able to match their names and faces immediately. It would be bad if I made a mistake with my brother's name. Nice assist, Masamoto. Well, it wouldn't be bad to deepen the relationship with the Azai brothers here. It's a rare occasion, come drink some tea in my room. Let's talk for a while. Tea, thank you very much. Masamoto bowed to me. In the Sengoku period, even brothers engage in a bloody feud and open battle with one's own flesh and blood. However, the opposite, where large prestigious families with brothers on good terms, also existed. Well-known examples of such large prestigious families which had stable territory management would be the Hojo clan in Kanto, and the Shimazu clan in Satsuma. Even if the present head of the family was unreliable, if the younger brothers could support the desperate older brother, naturally the vassals would follow. If possible, I also wanted to get along with Nagamasa's brothers, and not cause a cruel incident with them because it would be counterproductive. Thus, I returned to my room for the first time in a while, accompanied by my brothers. I see, so that's what happened in Kyoto and the area around it. That's right, I have the high priest to improve it too. We listened to Enkyu's stories while sitting in a circle surrounded by tea cakes, which were being prepared by a page. He was a priest who was in the pursuit of knowledge in the Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, so inevitably he knew a lot about the circumstances around Kyoto. We listened to various stories from him. By the way, based on historical facts, Enkyu was a priest from the Ikko sect that was considered useful in the school of Hongon. Apart from that, Nagamasa Dano. What is it? Enkyu straightened himself while confronting me. The current situation of the Azai clan is very serious. I think that Nagamasa, who is leading this, must surely feel very anxious. Well. You could say that. I sighed. When reading Japanese history, it was Nagamasa Azai who drove his father, Hisamasa, to retirement. In fact, I believe that it was a race to get results where the father and son implicitly obtained a mutual agreement from within. But seeing today's atmosphere, it's likely not the case. The man named Nagamasa Azai gathered the power from people who weren't from the Azai clan to silence Hisamasa and his relatives. The current Azai clan members were torn between the Asakura faction and the Oda faction. No, it might be more correct to call them the Independence faction. Enkyu requested a brush and paper from me, so I ordered a page to prepare a brush, ink stone, and paper. He went up to splendidly paint a smooth diagram of the Azai clan's faction influence. While we, the Azai, occasionally received help from the Asakura clan along the way, but like Nagamasa, instead of assuming that is good, there are people who desire to break off the original path as well. Enki explained that as a result, the pact with the Oda clan was born and bore fruit. We Azai brothers were placed in a circle on the paper. The most influential people in the Asakura faction are Father, Koriyasu Azai. Dano, Tsunemoto Inoue. Dano, Tsunekika Inoue. Dano, Tadatane Azai. Dano, Tadamasa Azai. Dano, Sadayuki Atsuji. Dano, Sadahiro Atsuji. Dano and so forth, with Father and Koriyasu Azai. Dano being the most influential, and Tsunemoto Inoue. Dano the second, and so on. On the other hand, Enki said while showing the influential diagram, the independent faction, which has Nagamasa. Dano first on the list, and excluding us brothers, also has Ihiro Azai. Dano, Akamasa Teya. Dano, Nagayori Azai. Dano, Itamo Azai, Masazumi Azai. Dano, and Tsukechika Azai. The problem is that Ihiro. Dano, Akamasa. Dano, and Nagayori. Dano are old. There are also many young people, including us brothers. However, the main point is that there's too few of us. Japan has a tradition, which was based on seniority. Whether it was good or bad, this custom already existed way before the Sengoku era. In other words, the family meeting from before was to preserve those old men. It meant that as long as those people didn't die, the opposite faction would still be putting on heirs. If that's the case, the middle-aged man, Tsukechika, was in a quite important position. I realized this later. What Nagamasa. Dano should aim for is to raise the legitimacy of the independent faction. Enki said, as though he was a priest conducting a sermon for the masses. It's not to break the opposite faction, but to steadily pile up results and win back the trust of the whole clan once more. Even if the opposite faction tries to make a comeback and regain power, Nagamasa can implement a policy that can obstruct and restrain the vassals from stepping in. Bulmo. I nodded to elder half-brother's logic while sipping tea. Isn't Nagamasa blessed with an excellent older brother? Masamoto, Masayuki. Yes. I called out to my younger brothers, except Enki, who's a priest. After this, I want to reform Omi and be able to enrich it. However, there is a limit on what I can do alone. At that time, I will need your strength, brothers. At that time, I will ask you all. Certainly. The brothers bowed quickly. There was no cloud of doubt within. Father was tricky, but these brothers could be trusted. I'm convinced. Well, this kind of thing. The curtain of night fell. In Lady Oichi's room. I talked about what happened today, while skipping out the secret talk. Tsukechika-sama must have had some serious trouble too. Lady Oichi gazed fixedly at the tall stack of papers I was carrying and said with deep emotion. So. After my brothers left my room, Tsukechika came in with the list of vassals that had a scheduled meeting and passed it to me. The vassals of the Azai clan weren't few. Rather, numerically speaking, it would enter the category of many. Nonetheless, Tsukechika puts them all in order, and at the same time, while considering my state of affairs, they were still able to make me a schedule. So, Oichi. Yes, what do you need? Lady Oichi responded to my voice, while bowing in a Mitsuyabi. Because it was done in a fairly natural manner, I almost took it as an illusion. There wasn't a woman in the present that could do it like this. While earnestly remembering the former world, I faced Lady Oichi. If possible, when meeting the vassals. Won't you to join me? Me. Lady Oichi said in surprise. But I am a person of Oda. With a person of Azai. Hey, Oichi. Isn't that wrong? I asked while looking at her face, and putting my hands on her shoulders. Aren't you the wife of Nagamasa Azai? Ah. Lady Oichi looking at me bashfully, feeling embarrassed. As my wife, you need to know about my subjects. When the time comes, they might be able to help you. But Lady Oichi said to me while hesitating. Only a day has passed since I became Nagamasa-sama's wife. Such a woman, it's impolite to disturb Nagamasa-sama's important time and place. On, what profundity, what modesty. I couldn't endure, and hugged her while whispering in her ear. I want you to be with me there. Besides, with Oichi and I there. The vassals will also feel inspired and they look at the head of the clan and his legal wife. When I whisper, please come with me, just to make sure, Lady Oichi nods her head deeply. As her neck moved, her raven black hair swayed, and her alluring snow white nape was shown, and noticing it, I licked the nape of her neck slightly. If a woman dressed in a kimono showed the nape of her neck, I would feel nothing except lust. I can't help it. Ah. Yeah. Nagamasa-sama. Lady Oichi utters a confused cry, while trembling in my arms. That, Mao. Hey, is it good? Honestly, I can't control it anymore. Carrying Lady Oichi's soft, light body, I went to the back of the room where the futon was laid, and laid her soft body down lightly. She folded her arms on her chest, while moving her waist hesitantly to the side. Dangerously cute. I wanted to pounce on her right now. That. Nagamasa-sama. What is it? I pinned Lady Oichi down, as I respond while leaning on her. Her face blushes hot red, when she says. That. As you told me, Nagamasa-sama. I properly prepared. What? Therefore. Lady Oichi's face turned completely crimson red, while she lowered her voice to the extent that only I could hear. My body. I cleaned it properly as I bathed in the hot water, therefore, by all means. 7th. Such devotion. She whispered to me. I couldn't hold it in any longer. If I didn't get an erection, I can say it here, I'm not a man. If any man didn't get a sudden erection, he's a different kind of animal. This guy. I inserted a hand in the opening of Lady Oichi's kimono, and thoroughly enjoyed her soft skin. 7th. Well, you know where this is going in the next chapter. Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, Developing Oichi's mouth in the Sengoku period. There was nothing like a LED light, a fluorescent lamp or a light bulb. Therefore, in this era, at 8 o'clock in the evening darkness ruled the world. However, due to innate human fear of the dark, the ancestors of the modern Japanese sought to have light, so an interior lantern was devised that made use of wild sesame. Soak a rope with the plant resin, light the tip, cover the fire around with paper and the light would spread, bringing a dim illumination to the room for many hours. Most daimyo clans, samurai and, possibly, merchants' families in the Sengoku period used this style of lantern. In the dim light, I held Oichi down. This would be the second time I shared a bed together with my wife. Her clothes fell into total disorder, showing her pink flushed shoulders and thighs from under the silks. My palms started to crawl over her captivating skin. Oichi's weak point seemed to be her nape and the inside of her thighs, since every time I touched those her body would quiver. Nagamasa-sama, Nagamasa-sama. Oichi. While I was caressing her from head to toe, she feverishly repeated my name in delirium. Most likely, this was her way of trying to plead, born from impatience, since the pleasure she was receiving from my hand was little more than tickles. I kept moving my hands over her breasts, yet never touched her nipples. I constantly touched her thighs while avoiding her clitoris. 10 minutes passed like that since I had pushed her down onto the futon. Truthfully, it wasn't just Oichi. All of this period faced with their own lust found it impossible to voice their desire of, I want you to touch me here. When I stopped caressing her, she sighed, full of longing. Though her body was deprived of virginity only yesterday, it would probably gradually learn the way to earn Oichi pleasure soon. After all, it was a salacious little thing that experienced pure pleasure during its first time. It should have an astoundingly high potential to enjoy sexual stimuli. But whether it would develop well, that depended entirely on the skills of the husband. I rested my hands on either side of Oichi's neck and looked down at her beautiful face. She narrowed her misty eyes and smiled. And then timidly raised her lovely hands to my cheeks, stroking them slowly. Nagamasa-sama, Oichi. Oichi is a fortunate person. She smiled gracefully as she said this. Being touched by Nagamasa-sama, just touched like this. Feeling my lord's warmth. With this alone, my heart is already bursting with happiness. Is that so? I felt somewhat embarrassed. Can you imagine? To have a peerless beauty underneath you, smiling at you from the bottom of her heart. To hear her confess that she's happy because of you. If that doesn't make you embarrassed, you're a strange man. Brushing these feelings aside, I pressed down onto Oichi's lovely lips. At first, was surprised, but as soon as our tongues entangled and the saliva from my mouth poured into hers, her eyes gradually closed and with an intoxicated expression, she began to drink the liquid down. Unexpectedly, Oichi seemed to like kissing as well. I separated from her moments before my tongue became sore like a dead arm, then asked my wife, who lay on the futon with a completely blank expression. Oichi, you like this, don't you? Hiya. I love this. I love touching lips with Nagamasa-sama. Oh. I leaned down again to kiss her lips lightly and I felt her whole body tremble. Apparently, it was the last push needed to make her climax. What a lewd body indeed. In delight at the results of her development, I playfully bit her ear and whispered. From now on, you will call this a kiss. If I hear you saying, touching lips again, I will scold you for disobedience. Fua. Oichi, what do you like doing with me? Kiss. Good. Embracing her sensitive body, I brought Oichi's lips to mine once again and entangled our tongues and saliva as I caressed her head slowly. However, at this point, I suddenly remembered that this was not what I intended to do tonight. I didn't come here to play aimlessly. I wanted to scold my wife for succumbing to sleep before me during our first night together. While I marveled at my own memory lapse, I placed my hand on her chest and whispered with a smile. So good, in fact, that I almost completely forgot. What about? She asked with a bewitching voice that sent shivers down my spine. I answer her while massaging the underside of her breast, still avoiding the nipples. You went to sleep before me last night. Yes. Oichi fell silent and her blissful expression crumbled. She might be a bad wife, but her constantly changing face was predictably adorable. I don't particularly blame you, Oichi. I said while caressing her head. Can you really not forgive yourself? If that really is so, then I have no choice but to scold you. And with that, let's close this subject, alright. Oichi answered my question with a nod and got up from my arms. Then, with her clothes still in disorder, she lowered her head and back in a perfect Mitsuyabi in front of my reclining form. Please. Discipline Oichi for being a bad wife. However you wish. If my lord doesn't, Oichi won't be able to forgive herself. What a goddess. That was the first thought this sight brought to my mind. Women like this were definitely extinct in the world I was from. Feelings of affection towards Oichi overwhelmed me, but still, in an intentionally cold voice, I ordered to raise her head. As she raised her face, I noticed an uneasy expression with a hint of panic. That puzzled me. Please. Nagamasa-sama. Please. Don't come to hate Oichi. That strained voice finally helped me to understand. My kindness shocked her. Oichi, a wife that was not performing her duties as was expected in this period, must have interpreted it as me thinking, she's seriously a damned useless woman, while saying, I understand, I'll tolerate it, as a courtesy for the allied Oda clan. Apparently, falling asleep before your husband was a much more serious sin than I expected. Well, I guess the reputation of Oda clan in the eyes of Azai depended entirely on her as my wife. I somewhat understood her desperation. I pretended to consider this while looking around the room that was bestowed to Oichi. When I spotted a folding stool in one of the corners, I abruptly got up from the bed and began to walk in that direction, but Nagamasa-sama. Surprisingly, Oichi clung to my leg trying to stop me. She might have thought that I tried to leave the bedroom in anger. Incidentally, according to historical evidence, the men of this era were volatile and easy to offend compared to modern ones. To modern sensibilities, this would be like saying, whatever, and leaving in a huff at every occasion. Two examples from the period would be Katsuyori Takeda, the last head of the Takeda clan, and Masamune Date, a famous soldier of fortune. Both of them were said to be prone to returning to their rooms whenever they got frustrated with concubines during sex. And then there was Yusuji Kenshin, a person so moody that when he once lost his temper in the middle of a castle corridor, he fiercely stabbed his katana into a pillar. It made you wonder what kind of antics would Oichi be up to as a daughter of the period. Nagamasa-sama, please forgive me. Oichi. Oichi can mend her ways. This pulled on my heartstrings and I fell in love with the lovely Oichi all over again. And then I thought, actually, wouldn't this be a chance to change Oichi to become more to my sexual tastes? I intentionally shook Oichi off. She uttered a sad cry and fell face down on the futon, tears started streaming down her cheeks. I felt sorry for her, but I could not stop, all this was for my Oichi development project. I took the folding stool and intentionally slammed it down near crying Oichi. That startled her, making her shoulders tremble. She looked at me timidly through falling tears. I sat down with impetus and looked straight at her crying face. It was still predictably cute and extremely tempting. Which was a good thing, too. Oichi. Why, yes. Despite still sobbing and being full of tears, Oichi tried to earnestly look at me without avoiding eye contact. I decided to treat her just like I had approached my vassals, with full-on, unhurried machismo. You said you shall serve me sincerely, correct? Ye. Yes. Oichi is Nagamasa-sama wife. Oichi will do anything for the sake of Nagamasa-sama. Anything. Fine. I pushed my raging son in front of Oichi's face. She turned bright red, trembling slightly. Oichi, what is this? While Oichi was dyed in shyness, she glanced between my son and me. I asked you a question, Oichi. Ph. It's a phallus. Although it was not very audible, she did say it. So in this age, they called it a phallus, not a penis. But then, this society was heavily influenced by Buddhism, the terminology was only natural. Good. But from now on, when in the bedchamber with me, you will call this dick. I understand. She was visibly embarrassed, but then so was I. Imagine yourself teaching a woman to call it a dick. Awkward, right? But for the sake of making Oichi say it, I had to put my discomfort aside. How do you like it? That. Oichi, extremely embarrassed by now, started fidgeting. Nagamasa-sama dick. So rugged. And bent and also. Splendid. Maybe even a shaku. Long. Such a splendid thing was inside Oichi. By the way, one shaku is about 30 centimeters. My big son was a world-class one. Even when trying to bury it inside Oichi's vagina it wouldn't fit in completely, that's how massive it was. My beloved wife's distressed appearance made me quite excited, so I moved closer to her beautiful face. Oichi, your punishment starts now. From this day onwards, you will be my woman and mine alone. Nah. Nagamasa.sama.Poichi seemed to accept my declaration with relief, the tears glistening on her face until now nowhere to be seen. Well, I would also be happy if the girl I loved said, "I'll make you my man." Still, I somehow got the feeling that Oichi's case was different from mine. Her reaction to the words, "my woman," gave off a vibe that she was of the sort that wanted to be tied up. Perhaps she might be close to an M. Incidentally, if somewhat beside the point, my mental image of Nobunaga's wife, made her be a total S. "Touch it, Oichi." I took her soft white hand and made her grasp it. "How does it feel? Ah. It's hot. She sounded excited as if the heat of my sun in her hand shaped her mood. "It's hot. Throbbing. Ah. So very hard. But, flexible. The big blood vessels. Ah. So manly. That's too much detail, thank you very much," I retorted in my head. However, her eyes were glued to my son and her breathing shallow and quick. Such a naughty child. Maybe, she has had an interest in that all along. "Start moving your hand up and down." "Why, yes." Poichi began to stroke my son. At first, her attempts were, quite obviously, clumsy. But she was learning fast, as expected of Oda Nobunaga's, the great general of the battlefields, little sister. Soon, she had my pole in an exquisite grip, rubbing it neither too strong nor too fast with her slender and supple fingers. Moreover, while outwardly trying to look worried about her performance as she looked at me with upturned eyes, she couldn't hide her wicked excitement. Ah, it was unbearable. My big son was deeply moved by her lovable appearance and the glands began to shed tears as a result. Pre.cum coiled around Oichi's lovely fingers causing her hand to make obscene, slimy sounds. "Oichi. That will do. Ha. Ha. Oichi. Why, yes." She was so absorbed in the handjob that she didn't notice my words until I actually shouted. Truly a lewd child. For the time being, I praised her skills and gently stroked her head as a reward. She looked genuinely delighted by this. "Remember to serve me like this when I desire it." "Understood. Yes, my lord." Oichi bowed in a Mitsubishi again. My pre.cum coiled around her fingertips and forming arches between her supple fingers. Noticing that I looked at her hands pointedly giving an implied order to lick them clean. Bright red she declines with a shake of her head. "Don't forget, Oichi. This, too, is training." A hint of threat in my voice forces her to timidly put her wet fingers in her mouth. In her mind, she was probably not seeing this as just sucking her fingertips. Moreover, the presence of a man's fluid she would have to put into her mouth made it seem even more obscene. However, this was her husband's, order, she could not disobey. Or just maybe, given her original interest in the subject, she was simply rationalizing her desires as following my orders now that her reason was crushed. When Oichi licked her fingertips her whole body shook. "How does it taste?" I asked her both intimately and as indecently as possible. That, yet again, made her embarrassed. "It tastes like Nagamasa.sama. So she said. She lost me at first, but with some careful deliberation I figured out this answer was very Oichi. Like. I was her only man and she didn't experience any other fluid save for mine. That was probably why she said it tastes like me. That way of thinking made her even more lovely, my affection meter went off the scale. Oichi. Lord. Her fingers had been completely licked clean of pre.cum, but she still kept on sucking her fingers as if unsatisfied with just that. Only when hearing my voice did she finally calm down. Oichi was probably someone who lost track of reality when immersed in something. It was an open question whether she valued licking the pre.cum or handjob to that extent, nevertheless, I was still happy. Without a word, I extended the fingers of my left hand in her direction. That attracted her attention and she tentatively licked my fingertips. And then I felt her warm breath on the back of my hand. Her bewitching lips pouted seductively. My fingers felt soothing heat and tickle. Just looking at the sight of her beautiful face moving back and forth, from my fingertips all the way to my knuckles, stirred a terrifying shiver of lust running down my spine. And when her lustrous black hair flowed down her head exposing the nape of her neck, my self-restraint reached its limits. Oichi, suck them. Yes. Oichi put my fingers deep into her mouth and started to lick them softly. At the same time, I grabbed her kimono in my right hand and, nearly ripping it off her, exposing her beautiful perky mounds that seemed to defy gravity. Both of them received a nice, tight squeeze. Fua. Oichi, looking absolutely engrossed with my fingers in her mouth, let out a sensuous moan. I kept thoroughly enjoying the softness of her chest while occasionally teasing her pale, pink nipple. Each time that happened she would raise a sweet muffled whimper and put even more effort into licking and sucking on my fingers. Soon my beloved wife's soft nipples stiffened under repeated caressing and became hard like gummies. Sensing Oichi's excitement from her reactions, I ordered her to comfort herself through her nipples and clitoris. Her mind by this point was probably completely clouded by desire. Without a shred of hesitation, her delicate fingers roamed to her crotch and the breast I was not groping. I started to squeeze and rub her nipple while massaging her breast to the best of my ability. Her tongue became even more frantic. But then, my left hand suddenly left her mouth as she collapsed onto her shapely ass. What is this? Were you allowed to stop? When Oichi heard this, she covered her face with both hands and started shaking her head. A bit calmer now, she grew ashamed of her own foolishness. But, this timing. I wondered for an instant before noticing a pool of fresh liquid on the futon under her waist. Rising from the stool, I moved my face to her ear and asked in a whisper. Did you nearly climax just now? Bikuin, Oichi's body jolted. Apparently, I was right. As she was licking my finger while having her nipples and clitoris teased by both mine and her own hands, she almost came. But now that she returned to her senses and to her chaste self, these acts, masturbation and assertively offering her own body, were extremely shameful. Which meant, my chance presented itself just now. Ah! Please, forgive me. So much shame. Oichi's head. Open it, your mouth. You. Nagamasa. Sama. Anything for my sake, wasn't it? Open your mouth. I repeated my command, rejecting my beloved wife's plea. Her body still excited, Oichi opened her mouth. The sight was extremely tempting. Now take it into your mouth. Aha! Such a thing. Having my big son in front of her face, even Oichi would hesitate. Quite natural, even a man needs to find courage in order to lick a woman's genitals. It's not odd for a woman to be the same. Moreover, my son was world-class and as such a pretty formidable prospect even for women more experienced than her. However, development requires one to overcome obstacles, you cannot grow if you don't push forward. Nagamasa. Sama, if it is for you. Although I only placed my big son before her face, Oichi seemed to find her resolve on her own. Opening her mouth wide, she covered my glands with her lips. I started to caress her head gently, soon her face moved close to my stomach and she swallowed my son completely. Now comfort me like you did a while ago. Faisa. With my big son fully inside Oichi's beautiful mouth, I didn't dare to move at all. Still, her attempts at servicing me were pretty good for an amateur. I could not afford to be rough here and make her feel sick, or she might grow to abhor fellatios. In a way, I was about to take the virginity of her mouth. Only a fool would grind his hips hard against a virgin from the start, and the same principle applied here. So I kept my hips still and I kept caressing the head of my courageous beloved wife. Soon I felt her tongue begin to crawl over my son and I involuntarily moaned. Oichi's hands wandered to her breasts and crotch again as the lust started building up once more inside her body. At the same time, she started to work her tongue harder. I kept stroking her head gently with one hand while the other began to trace the contours of her ear, making her more excited. And even more diligent at fellatio. Yes, just like that. After a while I felt Oichi's movement ease, she was nearing her climax. I lowered my both hands to her chest, brushed off her still hand and firmly pinched her stiff nipples. New nnnnn. Oichi's hips shook and then kept spasming. At the same time, her tongue stiffened and contracted strongly, stimulating my penis enveloped by her mouth. The feeling of her tongue just now, the memory of how she sucked my fingers, the sight of her foolish arousal, all this pushed me beyond my limits. Coo, it's coming. I held Oichi's head still while ejaculating large amounts of hot semen into her mouth. The heat, the acidic taste in her mouth and the fishy smell in her nose pushed her orgasm to reach new heights. She came harder than ever before, unwittingly spitting out my son and spasming from her hips outwards. Make a bowl out of your palms and spill it there. I ordered, trembling from the climax and shaken by the amazing sensation, as I watched my beloved wife's haggard face. She did as I wanted, large amounts of baby juice dripping from her mouth into her cupped hand. Nagamasa.sama, Nagamasa.sama. Oichi stared at me questioningly with vacant eyes, face completely bewitched and palms filled with semen. I looked at her sternly and, with my back muscles still feeling strained from the after-effects of her loving attention, I gave her the last command of the night. Now spread it all over your chest. Ah. Sengoku's most beautiful girl was spreading my semen all over her symbol of motherhood, while her waist was quavering timidly and a large amount of love juice dripped down from her crotch. Soon, a huge amount of creamy semen was covering her pure white breasts, my white vicious body fluids nearly completely obscuring her pale, pink nipples. This sight enthralled me, made me feel as if I just conquered her body. Oichi. You smell lovely. Ah. So mean. Nagamasa.sama is mean. Her eyes still distant, she doesn't stop spreading my semen over her breasts, my initial rebuke still likely on her mind. Allowing me to point out that my beloved wife's fundamental wish was realized, my smell and no sense other than mine. Mine only. Now, Oichi, now you, and only you, belong to me wholly. At a loss for words, Oichi beamed a most joyful, sincere smile at me, happy from the bottom of her heart both as a woman and as my wife. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Azai's bravest generals. The Odani castle of the Azai family was one of the best fortresses ever built in the Odani mountains of the Omi province in the Sengoku era. The mountain castle that fell as result of the fierce attack by the Oda family in 1573 by betraying the Itsuji family, which were relatives of the Azai family, was said to be the most advanced castle that they were able to build at the time. Even though it was claimed to be so advanced, it had one major flaw: it is cold. Not just cold, but to the extent that it is unusual. Also, as the result of it being located in the mountains, there was a high concentration of humidity. The heavy air surrounding the living space of the castle could even be called gloomy. Incidentally, the Odani castle was dismantled by Toyotomi Hideyoshi after it had been occupied by Oda Nobunaga. The materials were used for the Nagahame castle construction that became his residence. There are various theories as to why Hideyoshi dismantled the Odani castle. According to some, it is said that Hideyoshi, who loved Himeji, wanted to dismantle the Odani castle because he didn't want to live in the place where she and Nobunaga spent their honeymoon days. As long as I am here, I will definitely not let the Azai family be destroyed. There is no way that the Odani castle will be dismantled. It shouldn't be. I don't want it to be. And yet, I would like to do something about this living environment. As for the coldness in the natural sense, it can't be helped anymore. The bedding is the problem. The futon of the Sengoku era is quite different from the one in my previous life. In the Azai family, there were only futons that consisted of 3 cloths made out of cotton sewed together and laid out on top of the tatami. Also, things such as blankets didn't exist. The coat of the thick kimono that Oichi wears is used as the coverlet. Only at times like this, do I miss the bed of the welfare facility where I used to live. Embracing Oichi on a soft bed or futon sure sounds wonderful. I have decided, first let's change the things involving my everyday necessities. And not just for people inside the Azai family. I want to share these benefits with all the people inside the Azai territory. Silk and cotton are necessary in order to build bedding. However, in this era cotton could basically only be imported from China. Only in Mikawa of the Tokai region and in its surroundings did they cultivate silk in Japan during the Sengoku period. But the productivity was extremely low, so they weren't able to distribute throughout the entire country. Therefore they were basically relying on China. It is needless to say that silkworms are needed for silk. Yes, those that are used as teaching materials in Japan's elementary school, those insects that were also grown as part of free studies in the summer break. The fiber that can be taken from the cocoon of these insects is elastic and beautiful. It is a well-known fact that when the Meiji government of Japan published the Fukoku Kyohei 1, the silk had become the principal item to acquire foreign currency. I see the sky through the transom while pondering on those things. Although it's still dark, it started to brighten little by little. I believe it is roughly 4 o'clock in the morning. In contrast with the severe coldness of the outdoor air, I take my arm away from Oichi's warm body. I carefully leave the futon so as not to wake her up. When I look at her face, she has a very calm expression, and her soft breathing can be heard. Last night she stroked my penis with her hands for the first time, held it in her mouth and received my ejaculation. There are no longer any traces of that obscene look she had when she spread my semen on her breast. After that, I gave a kiss to Oichi, who was completely relieved, but after having done that, she immediately started acting spoiled. It might be better to report that the war continued in a second and third round after seeing her cuteness and innocence coming from the heart. While rubbing and raising her breasts that became slimy with semen, I pushed my penis into her warm and soft vagina, and French kissed her numerous times. In the middle of that, Oichi climaxed over and over again, and by the end of the third round, she completely collapsed. Even though she was tired, she never closed her eyes before me. I guess it was by sheer willpower, as one would expect from Oda Nobunaga's little sister. I changed my clothes next to where Oichi was sleeping and arranged my appearance. There is something I must arrange in the early morning. In order to finish that, I couldn't wait for Oichi to wake up. Because the schedule made by Tsukechika for the individual interviews with the vassals starts today. I left the room after looking one more time at the sleeping face of my beloved wife. Then I noticed Oichi's maidens. Looks like they were holding back so not to interrupt us. They kept waiting in this cold hallway of the mountain's castle for me to leave. I felt responsible for the maidens that left their hometown. I couldn't help but admire the Oda women who came to the Odani castle. I wonder if there is some way to reward their devotion. I thought about that while they send me off. When I returned to the room after finishing my arrangements, she was in the middle of being cleaned and dressed by the maidens. It looks like it was originally something that men shouldn't see. Oichi's face turned bright red, and one of the maidens looked at me with criticizing eyes. Ah, I see. Isn't this the catching the heroine changing clothes scene that is common in light novels? I don't quite understand. It's not like Oichi's skin is exposed and they should be finished dressing her after adding a few more layers of clothes. As a man, I can't say that it's a particularly happy occasion. I made a gesture as to say, please finish the changing of the clothes quickly, and leaned on the pillar of the room's entrance. They understood that I had no intention of leaving and increased the speed of dressing her. Speaking of Oichi, she was staring at me with a heated look on her face that made me think of when we were making love. It seems that it will take me some time to understand the sensibility of the women in the Sengoku period. Say, Nagamasa-sama. What on earth were you doing? Oichi, whose clothes changing continued to be ogled, asks me while being ashamed. I showed a wrapped-up cloth as an answer to her question after walking to the middle of the room. What could this be? It's a crepe. I show her how to roll the circular dough that is still slightly warm. Yes, my goal is to prepare the souvenirs for the military commanders that are doing the interview today. For that I sneaked into the kitchen in the early morning when the cook was still sleeping. I borrowed rice flour, chicken eggs and also some sugar without permission and baked them. Of course, a frying pan doesn't exist in Japan yet, so I had to use a pot for the food preparation. That is why the form was irregular, and since there was no wheat flour, I had no choice but to use rice flour as a substitute. There is no doubt that this is a crepe nonetheless. By the way, Japan has only recently started trading with Western Europe, so crepes shouldn't have been introduced yet. Oichi is also blinking with surprise as if she was seeing it for the first time. The maids were also looking with a curious look from the corner of the room. The West.no, maybe she'll understand it easier by saying Western Europe. This is a sweet that people in Western Europe eat. This. Oichi looks at the crepe closely while letting out a small breath. It looks like a moon, doesn't it? It has a sense of elegance to it. Is that so? This can be eaten. Ah, I actually thought of making this as a souvenir for the vassals that I'm meeting today, but I made enough for you and the maidens. Oh. Oichi's face was shining. Her face was showing happiness from knowing that it was also prepared for her maidens. Thinking about others is one of her best qualities. Tsubaki, Kid, Sakura, come over here. Oichi called her maids. They took a little time and approached timidly while looking at each other, wondering what was happening. One of the tasks of the maids was not to disturb when the daimyo couple were alone. That is why they were hesitant. Here, you roll it like this. Oh, it looks cute, doesn't it? I roll the crepe into a circular shape and hand it over to Oichi. Then, I do the same for the three maids. Thereupon, they bow, deeply lowering their heads and receiving it while their bodies were shaking. If you think carefully, it's absolutely impossible for the head of the daimyo family to personally hand over sweets that he prepared to the likes of a maid. In the first place, even with tea, the vassal couldn't participate until the daimyo approves it. As for Kid, the maid that was looking at me with criticizing eyes not long ago started snuffling and crying with deep emotion. Yep, as I thought, it is quite difficult to get used to it. Oichi smiles while I have a troubled look on my face. I appreciate your courtesy, Nagamasa-sama, she says as she opens her lovely mouth and takes one bite of the crepe. So sweet, BL.net, she raised a voice of astonishment while blinking in surprise. The maids that were in front of their surprised master meet the crepe hastily with their mouths. Then they stayed with that stiff posture and started to let out big tears. In this era, sugar was still something very valuable. Even though brown sugar obtained from the Ryukyu Islands and white sugar obtained from Western Europe started to flow into Kitakyushu, Osaka, and Kyoto in the late 1560s. The market price of the sugar was centered in Kitakyushu, Kyoto and Osaka. The farther from those places, the higher the price. The Owari province where the home of Oichi's parents was located was a prosperous area in commerce, but because there was some distance from Kyoto, sugar was expensive. There was no doubt that it was a luxury. In other words, what these maids of low social status were eating was something impossible to get throughout their lifetime. However, because the Azai family influenced the Omi province, which is adjacent to Kyoto, I was able to buy it directly from the Kyoto market, so the sugar was relatively easy to obtain. I looked at the girls that were moving their mouths with innocence in a fresh mood. Yup, meals sure are important. Eating delicious food brings you happiness. I wonder if I can do something about the diet in this era. The only flavoring that they have is salt, which is sad when you compare it to modern times. I let out an unconscious sigh. It is finally time, Nagamasa-sama. Yes. Oichi raised her voice with nervousness in my room. Right now is me no Saikaku 2, that is 10 o'clock in the morning expressed in modern time. It is finally time for the individual interviews with the vassals. The interview site is my room. Tsukechika is supposed to guide the military commanders when the time comes. By the way, the ones that I have an interview with today are Isono Kazumasa and Endo Naetsune. Naetsune is the strongest admiral of the Azai family. He already met with Oichi before when we welcomed Oichi to the Azai family. Kazumasa is a brave general of the Azai family that could be compared to Naetsune. He was a great man that broke through 11 of the 13 formation led by Oda Nobunaga and was nothing but a step away from Nobunaga's headquarters in the Battle of Anegawa, where the allied forces of Oda and Tokugawa battled against the allied forces of the Azai and Asakura. Moreover, it is surprising to say that Kazumasa broke through a formation set up by Shibata Katsui, who was the best strategist in the entire Oda family, and the future ruler Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Surely Japan's history would have changed greatly if the Asakura army had been able to hold up a little longer against the offensive of the Tokugawa army. While fantasizing about the ifs of such a different course of history, the Fusuma opens, and Tsukechika interrupts my fantasy with his face peeking through it. Nagamasa-sama, it's me, Tsukechika. Endo Naetsune. Has arrived. Good, come in. Yes, although, said Tsukechika with bewilderment. I notified to Isono Kazumasa. Dano that his meeting is after Naetsune. Dano, but Kazumasa. Dano misunderstood the order and has already arrived at the castle. Is he trying to compete against Naetsune for the order? I ask while taking a deep breath. No, it's not like that, said Tsukechika amazed. Naetsune. Dano said, I have served the Lord since he was a child. No matter what happens, there is no way that I lose my loyalty to my Lord. Therefore, there is not much to talk about. Also, I cannot avoid meeting my friend Kazumasa after all this time. Now that it's come to this, I would like you to guide Kazumasa and me together to the presence of the Lord. I unconsciously expressed a bitter smile. It is a historical fact that Endo Naetsune was the vassal who Azai Nagamasa trusted the most. It is said that Nagamasa appointed him not only for his unrivaled loyalty and bravery but also for his personality. In short, he will secure the benefits of his master or his friends even if it obliterates his own. It is a very rare personality in the Sengoku period and even more in modern times. I understand. Naetsune is that kind of man. It deviates from the schedule but bring them both. Very well, my lord. With that, Tsukechika leaves and calls the two main figures of the Azai army. Endo Naetsune. Dano and Isono Kazumasa. Dano. Both of them are well-known generals by the Oda family. But Kazumasa. Dano sure is a funny gentleman for mistaking the order, isn't he? Perhaps they wanted to meet Nagamasa-sama as soon as possible and attended to the castle. Oichi says with a bitter smile. You're probably right. I admired Oichi's courage that didn't even show a fragment of nervousness. I think that anyone would normally be nervous in the presence of two brave generals of the Azai family, but I think that aspect of hers should be expected from the lady of the Oda family. I think that I'm more nervous than her. My lord, it's me, Naetsune. Nagamasa-sama, it's me, Kazumasa. Meanwhile, I hear their voices. Fortunately, I met Naetsune immediately after coming to this era, so I can't mistake their names and faces. You may enter. I placed two wrapping cloths behind me and raised my voice. The Fusuma opens quickly, and I can see the figures of Naetsune and Kazumasa bowing and lowering their heads. What are you doing? You don't have to be so formal. Quick, come over here. Yes. These strong men known for their bravery stepped forward before me. In their eyes, there was the fire of loyalty. Unlike Naetsune, Kazumasa surrendered in the Azai attack against the Oda family. However, that was because Nagamasa didn't have confidence in Kazumasa and stopped supporting him with provisions, and in the end, his mother that was held hostage in the Odani castle was executed. Kazumasa continued the battle even after their supplies stopped, but his patience ended when Nagamasa murdered his mother, and then he surrendered to the Oda family. As a person coming from the future, I am confident that both Kazumasa and Naotsune are trustworthy. Kazumasa is afraid of losing someone close to him or having blood relatives killed. That is why he takes arms and fights. Today's interview will be key to whether I can become a close person to Kazumasa and whether he would think it'll be worth to throw away his life for my sake. That is why I spoke frankly with both warriors. The reason that I called both of you here was that I wished to talk frankly about the future of the Azai family. After Naotsune and Kazumasa looked at each other, they returned their glance to me. First Kazumasa asks with all due respect, as a preamble. What do you mean by, the future of the Azai family? Are you planning on changing the Azai family? That is correct. I said to Kazumasa while looking at his eyes. Just like I said before. I will rebuild the Omi province. For that reason, there are many things that I must do. Therefore, we need to change our plans drastically. Naotsune and Kazumasa stared at me seriously. They are truly thinking about the future of the Azai family that they serve. They are completely focusing on what I am talking about, and they were ready to rebuke anything when necessary. That is why I was able to reveal my intentions with confidence. I am not planning on unifying the country, which means that I do not desire to become a ruler. Also, I am not aiming to unify the Omi province. What? The color in the eyes of the generals changed, and they both leaned forward. That was to be expected. Up till now, the Azai family has been fighting for the hegemony of the Omi province against the Rakuku family. If I may make bold to ask, Nagamasa-sama. In that case, what do you plan to do to cope with the threat of the Rakuku family? Asked Kazumasa with a thunderous voice. There were the feelings of a man who experienced many battlefields in those words. Kazumasa is the lord of the Sawayama castle in the south of Omi. Right in front of his eyes lay the Kananji castle, which was the headquarters of the Rakuku clan, who were named as the Shugo Daimyo III of Omi. The territory between these castles was filled with hostility since the start of the War of Independence by Nagamasa. The former heads of the Isono family, including Kazumasa, managed to defend the castle while using the lives of the whole clan on the battlefield for the Azai family. Kazumasa, being neck-deep in these current events, felt a strong sense of danger from my proposal. And perhaps Naotsune shared his thoughts because he has also lost many relatives and vassals on the battlefield against the Rakuku. That is why I must give a firm answer to his serious question. Won't my brother-in-law Nobunaga-Dano solve that for me? What? Both Naotsune and Kazumasa eyes opened wide with astonishment. And behind me, I could hear the surprised voice of Oichi. It was expected since Oda Nobunaga was in the middle of fighting against the Saito family for the Mino province. He couldn't afford to head towards the Omi province. Naotsune, tell me today's date. Yes. Naotsune responds while being confused by my incoherent question. It is the 16th day of January, my lord. Why would that? My brother-in-law will begin the assault to the north of ISE at the end of February. How? He was about to ask how the Lord knew such a thing, but Naotsune keeps quiet after staring at Oichi. I'm sure that Naotsune is thinking the wife must have whispered the military movements of the Oda family into the Lord's ears. There is no doubt that he interpreted it like that. Perhaps Kazuma shared the same thought. The reason why I brought Oichi with me was also so that they would read too much into what I say. I used the knowledge acquired from my historical research. My brother-in-law intends to capture the north of ISE with Takigawa Kazumasa-Dano as general. In the north of ISE lives a vassal of the Rakuku clan, Seiki Marinabu of the Kamayama castle. The Rakuku clan will be forced to send reinforcements from the south of Omi to the northern border of ISE through a long mountain road. Though since they have to contain my brother-in-law in the south of Omi, they will have to split all their forces between the two, right? I see. In other words, Starting from the end of February, you will not have to worry about a big battle between the Rakuku clan and us. Naotsun, Kazumasa, do you now understand what I wanted to say? Yes. The two brave generals lower their heads before me. This year will be our victory if we strengthen the abilities of the Azai and the north of Omi. Is such an interpretation correct, my lord? It is. I nodded to Naotsun's answer. The funds of the Azai family heavily depends on the toll charged to the travelers and merchants moving through Lake Biwa. But it's not enough. We need to secure new financial resources. Secure new financial resources. Naotsun inclined his head to the side as if he was thinking, I do not understand business stuff. Next, to him, Kazumasa clapped his hands like he was convinced. I get what you mean by financial resources. Is this perhaps about there aren't enough human resources that Nagamasa-sama said the other day? That is correct. I nod to Kazumasa. The more people there are, the more wealthy the Azai family will become. The land tax depends greatly on the planting condition of the year, but money is different. I will collect equally regardless of the difference between rich and poor in the form of head tax. With that in consideration, the more people, the better. And the number of soldiers will also increase. Said Naotsun while snorting. Well, if there are too many soldiers then I would have to prepare provisions and salaries, so I'll have to keep it at a reasonable number somehow. It would only be a tragedy to strengthen the army if it ends up in ruins because of financial problems. I really don't want to reproduce what happened in the ancient Roman Empire. Industries work similarly. Create products, add value to it and then take as much money as possible from the opponent. I was thinking of emerging in the cotton and silk industries. Cotton and silk. Says Kazumasa while he leans forward and pats his knee. Certainly, if the production of high-quality silk and cotton gets on track, the people producing it will without a doubt receive the benefits. The kimono shops from Kyoto will also come to our territory. In that case, there will be a lot of activity near the castle, and many people will migrate here. That's it, you're completely right. Naotsun, Kazumasa, listen carefully. Being realistic, the power of the Rakuku clan is far superior to ours. That is the reason why the population of the south of ISE is much more numerous. Right now the north of ISE has nothing that looks like an industry, and we hardly have anything to attract people. However, with the rise of industries and the liveliness near the castle, what will happen with an increase of immigrants? Where do those people come from? I concentrate and question them. Oh. It appears that Naotsun and Kazumasa have finally understood. I see. People are finite, not infinite. Especially if we could attract the interest of the people living in the south of ISE and make them move to the north of ISE. Our territories will become prosperous, and the Rakuku resources will be pressured, they will no longer be able to make the military movements they have made so far. You did understand what I was thinking. I stand up and hold their hands with excitement. The brave generals were also excited and repeatedly nodded while looking at me. This is a battle. A battle in which we prevent shedding more blood than necessary. I confess my real intentions while looking at the both of them. Japan is in pain right now. The war continues, and the nation is suffering in ruins and impoverishment. Naotsun, Kazumasa, do you fight because you like it? Do you like the battlefield? That's not it, right? In today's world, you can't survive without fighting. That's just how it works. To the point that it becomes cruel. Both of the brave generals let out a deep sigh and dropped their shoulders. Those words must be terrible to hear and stab them deeply since they have fought against many soldiers in numerous battles. That's exactly why. We have to change it. We must put an end to the Sengoku period in this world. We must build a world where the people can laugh and live their lives. That is our duty. I will make it happen in Oma at all costs. You will help me, right? I said, and they both silently lowered their heads. As they slowly raised their heads, Naotsun, who has been serving Nagamasa since childhood, laughed happily. Shinkuro-sama 4 has changed. After meeting your wife, you became able to see the world with a broader perspective. The marriage with the Oda family was a great success. The days without battle might come sooner than expected. Naotsun and Kazumasa, brave generals, the pride of the Azai family, were crying in front of Oichi and me after I finished saying my piece. Chapter 7.1 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Ear Cleaning and Luxurious Horse, Part 1. Naotsun and Kazumasa started crying again after receiving the western sweets that I made from Oichi's hands. Then Tsukechika came to my room to discuss the lineup for tomorrow's interviews. There were no other people for today. It was to be expected. The vassals couldn't just casually visit the head of the Azai family, Nagamasa, unless invited, and emergency visits aren't frequent in times of peace. Nonetheless, I should be having an interview right now. However, because the unexpected situation happened where Naotsun and Kazumasa came at the same time, there is now free space in the pre-made schedule, so I find myself resting my head in Oichi's lap. I don't quite understand how it turned out this way. When I saw her Size 1 figure, I was sucked into that soft gap before I knew it. Oichi was initially surprised, but she soon started to pat my head as if her maternal instincts had been evoked. Ha! I'm becoming spoiled. At any rate, Nagamasa-sama. Nagamasa-sama, you sure know a lot about the Oda family matters, don't you? Says Oichi with a bitter smile on her face. I'm sure that she means what I said earlier to Naotsun about Nobunaga. He is going to begin the assault to the north of Ise at the end of February. I'm a person from the future, so I know everything that could possibly happen. Even though that's not completely true, I can't tell her something like that. I turned over on Oichi's lap and looked up at her face. She has lovely facial features, and I can't get enough of these big breasts entering my field of vision. She is truly beautiful. How do you think I knew all that? Well. Oichi gazes at me as she was pondering about it a little while caressing my face. Maybe my older brother told you about it before our marriage. No, that's not it. Oh, then perhaps. Maybe you hid a spy near my older brother. Oichi asks me with a sidelong glance. I feel an indescribable pleasant feeling to my wife's look. She can also make a face like that, huh? Well, being a young lady in the Sengoku period and being raised with Nobunaga looking over her, there was no way she was unfamiliar with the manners of the Sengoku period. I take a lock of that beautiful and black hair that hangs from Oichi's chest and enjoy the feeling with my fingertips. Nobunaga. No, if it is my brother. In law, he surely would have quickly found and gotten rid of a spy if one was blended among his followers, right? That's right. Oichi said to me with a calm face while caressing my chest with her index finger. Then how did you? You told me, Oichi. I make full use of my historical knowledge and give her an answer in a very natural way so that she won't suspect anything. My brother. In law is the general of the controlling instrument of this country. The reason for that general to give me his younger sister in the middle of the Mino attack was that there were resources connected to the fall of Mino, right? There is no doubt that my brother. In law is proceeding to the capital. And for that reason he wished to make an alliance with us, the Azai, in order to open the path to Omi. I continued talking. Still, only the safety of the path in the north can be secured this way. Ise and Iga are in the south. Both of the powerful families of Ise are subordinates of the Rokkaku family. Iga is the only force that is not attached to the Rokkaku or the Miyoshi family. To secure the safety of the path heading to the capital, the most natural action is that my brother. In law strikes Ise, which is the closest one geographically, isn't it? This should occur around the time when the resources can be secured with the capture of Mino. The army can't be moved that easily. It is impossible to gather soldiers, money, and provisions without careful preparation. That is why the most reasonable time to begin the military movements is 1 month after the alliance with the Azai has been established. Oichi went back to her usual gentle appearance as she was completely convinced. Yep, at any rate, my tongue was moving quite fast. Perhaps I am suitable to be a politician. No wait, a daimyo is already a politician in the first place though. It was silent for a while after that. There is plenty of nature in the Odani mountain where the castle is, even though it is cold outside, I could hear the singing voices of the birds. I wonder how strong the vitality is of animals in the wild. While enjoying the refreshing sounds of the trees' leaves moving and the chirping of the birds, I deeply realized how good it was spending time not only having sex but instead being together as a married couple like this. Anyway, it was a pleasure, right? What was? I am talking about Endo Neitsun Dano and Isono Kazumasa Dano. Says Oichi while caressing my face with eyes of affection. Let alone Neitsun Dano, Kazumasa Dano is the one that holds an important position of the Azai family that is located in the south of Omi, the Sawayama castle. I think that the fact that Kazumasa Dano understands Nagamasa Sama's point of view will become very important later on. I suppose it is. I raised my shoulders and unconsciously smiled while playing with Oichi's bangs with my fingertips. Oh. Is something wrong? Oichi gave me a gorgeous smile. I am sure that it was the most beautiful, cute and lovely smile I've ever seen. I don't think that I could ever forget that face in my life. Nobunaga-sama let out a peaceful and natural smile in front of me. Is that so? If she says it like that, it might be so. I suddenly took a journey to the Sengoku period, was pulled into a council and married Oichi. In the past few days, I have had a huge amount of experiences in a short time, that I never had in my previous life. That's why my feelings have been tense since I came here. Emitting a certain atmosphere when I smiled. When Oichi pointed that out just now, I finally realized. Although I don't think that I smiled that way when I was together with you in the bedroom though. Nagamasa-sama. My lovely wife protests by striking my stomach while her face becomes flushed. That's not it. I didn't say it with that meaning. Nagamasa-sama finally showed his natural smile in front of me, and I just thought of how delightful that was. In the first place, Nagamasa-sama flirts too much with me in the bedroom. Doing such indecent things to me. Yes, cute, so cute. While feeling my warming gradually, I turned my face towards Oichi's stomach. To the man saying, "I'll be happy with just flirting without having sex," or something like that, I would seriously reply, "What the heck is this guy saying?" or so I thought, but this is unexpected. No, I rather became happy for real. By gazing at her belly for a long time, I somehow started smelling a nice scent as I kept burying my face inside the thick kimono. I lost my parents at an early age and was raised in a welfare institution, so it seemed that I was unconsciously starving for motherhood. I pushed my face even closer as the scent that smelled a little like sweet milk that came from Oichi's smooth abdomen filled me with warmth. Then Oichi stopped striking my stomach and started to slowly caress my face and shoulders. I don't know if she might have sensed it, but that sure was a face full of affection with a facial expression like that of the Holy Mother. Perhaps the reason I was strongly attracted to Oichi in the first places was that I felt a strong motherhood emitting from her since the beginning. But, if you would peel away at her bundle of motherhood, she overflows with a lewd sexual nature. I really can't get enough. I think that she is the ideal woman. Well then. Nagamasa-sama, please stay like that a little while. Then Oichi leans her upper half forward and pushes her breasts against my face. I can feel her breath right next to my ear. What is with this supreme body sandwich? Below me are her thighs, in front of me is her belly and above me are her breasts. It feels soft all around me. Nagamasa-sama, please wait for a little while. Keyed. Are you there? I understood that the maid came closer judging by the atmosphere. Wait, really? It is like the dignity of the head of the Azai family is non-existent. Being seen with my head buried and being body sandwiched by my cute wife. The daimyos that are buried beneath the ground must be appalled, very much so. Please bring me the spoon. Understood. And then I was earnestly spoiled by Oichi for a while. Although that ended the moment the maid returned. Nagamasa. She called out my name, so I looked up. Ah! The happiness of not quite being able to see the face because of the boobs. I am going to clean Nagamasa-sama's ears right now. I'm sorry, but they appear to be quite dirty. Oh. I unconsciously got excited, making my body tremble. It has been a long time since I had my ears cleaned by someone else. I used to push the cotton swab into my ears by myself, so Oichi's proposal filled me with expectations and made me very excited. Well then, Nagamasa-sama, turn away please. After she told me so, I turned over and faced my left ear upward. Then Oichi's soft fingertips grabbed my earlobe and those huge, soft and beautiful breasts pressed against the back of my head through the kimono. The hard rod-like spoon. The ear pick stick touches the cartilage of my ear. I can't get enough of this. I will begin, feeling. Well then. I will begin now. Oichi's breath is blown into my ear. Yes, I'm done. That's all from me. It's useless, it's almost like my body is losing all its strength. Nagamasa-sama, please don't move. I feel the ear pick stick being moved around by Oichi's supple fingertips going into my external ear canal. My body only trembles at times like these. Perhaps anyone would tremble in such a situation though. First. I'll start with the superficial spots, alright. The ear pick stick touches the side of my external ear canal and keeps scratching upwards. A dry sound resonated in my eardrum, followed by an uncomfortable feeling and liberating feeling when she finished scooping it out. I unconsciously let out a moan. It feels good, it feels so good it can't be helped. Nagamasa-sama, you don't seem to clean your ears that often. The stimulus to my external ear canal continues with the spoon section of the ear pick stick as the earwax keeps being scraped out. The sound of something crumbling in my ear can be heard as it is being scraped out while the pressing against my external ear canal continues. Then she snuggled at the same place that was just stimulated with the spoon and gave me a massage. There is no doubt that this is paradise. I feel it while writhing in this supreme pleasure, and at the same time, I unconsciously hold my breath. The ear pick stick dances in circles with Oichi's fingertips as she removes my earwax. Nagamasa-sama, I will now do the deeper spots. Please tell me if it hurts, okay? After blowing her breath in my left ear, Oichi slowly lowers the ear pick stick along the external ear canal. There was a muffled jarring sound. It appears that there was a lot piled up. Not only was there a light, crunchy sound, but there was also a stiff feeling transmitted to the eardrums every now and then. Oichi lets out a little lewd-sounding sigh while she keeps scooping at the deepest spot with the spoon. For a while, I only heard jarring and scratching sounds. Ah! I took it out. Oichi raised a voice of delight. It appears she succeeded in the capture of the earwax that was stuck in my ear. Ah! It's so big. Oichi's remark didn't escape my ears as she murmured in wonder. If she says something like that, I can't help but to wonder what the particles that were taken out look like, but that curiosity was completely blown away by the feeling of having to leave this resting place that is Oichi's lap. The basic problem is that there is no way I can escape from this Eden that are the plump thighs of a beautiful girl from this era. That degree of difficulty is the same as the success of escape from Su Harakata, who was lured by the Mieyo castle shaking off the pursuit of the Toshimizu and Murakami armies. I thought I didn't want to lose to anyone, but I couldn't win against Oichi's thighs. I removed a piece of the earwax. Now I have to break through and keep capturing it. Oichi's ear pick stick dances in circles in my external ear canal, the spoon tears off the sides of the wall without leaving any traces of earwax as she continues scooping it out. As Oichi skillfully scrapes out the earwax, my shoulders keep trembling by this exhilarating feeling. Well then, for the finishing touch I will use a Bonten. * Japanese ear cleaning tool. The white Bonten is inserted in my ear, and the leftovers are entangled by the hairs and removed in the end. Softly, smoothly, softly, smoothly. 3 When the fluffy Bonten is pulled out of my ear, Oichi slowly brings her lips together to my sensitive ears. Fu, she lets out a gentle sigh towards my external ear canal. Ah, will it end with this? I was holding a sense of loneliness as Oichi played with my ears with her fingertips going in circles. Well then, Nagamasa-sama. Please turn to the other side. Suddenly my consciousness is filled with joy. Right, even if the left side is finished, there's still the right side left. I turned my head like Oichi said and buried my head in her thighs, belly, and breasts. Ah, this is the best. I found paradise. To think that Arcadia existed in such a casual and familiar place. Well then, now I'm going to clean this side too. Nagamasa-sama. While being controlled by a sweet man-killer voice. I started to feel drowsy in spite of it being mid-morning. Fine then, I accept my defeat. However, I was determined while being spoiled by Oichi. Right now. I'll recognize your victory this morning. But I definitely won't lose tonight. Nagamasa-sama, please don't move, okay? I'm just about to take out a big one, it will end up falling so. Please. Fine. Later on, she told me that she learned the ear cleaning technique from her mother. Before marriage, she cleaned the ears of her younger sisters in Oinu, so she improved her abilities. The called Oda's family secret ear cleaning technique. I wasn't used to having my ears cleaned by someone else, so I didn't have anyone to compare it with from the beginning. I was completely down for the count now though. I ended up being defeated in the ear pleasure war set by Oichi. I was left to spend the rest of the time with some difficulties. Japanese term for one of the traditional formal ways of sitting in Japan. Need some source on this, couldn't find anything on it. Sound effects. Chapter 7.2 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Ear Cleaning and Fine Horse, Part 2, Ah. Is everything alright, Nagamasa-sama? No. It's nothing. Just feeling a little sentimental. Is that so? We were heading to the Bakiju that is in a district of the Odani Castle along with a small entourage. There is a famous place that I wanted to visit since I became the feudal lord of the north of Omi. By the way, Bakiju is read as it is, a place or establishment related to horses. The ones inside the castle are basically top-grade horses for the head of the family to ride and are used for patrolling to some extent like now, in a full-scale war the horses that are mobilized would be kept outside the castle. Also, this is rather important. I can ride a horse. With my 8th grader syndrome, I thought, a king can't show his majestic side if he can't ride a horse, so I entered the horse riding club and had come in contact with horses in the experiences classroom of the nearest culture center. But would it really be okay? I was a little worried. Because the horses of the Sengoku period didn't have a muscular body like the ones in modern times and they even had more of a cure appearance like a pony. For example, the cavalry corps of the Takeda family that were famous on the streets. Common people might imagine a group of muscular old men wearing a helmet and armor with Takeda Shingen in the vanguard carrying the flag of Furinka-Zanwan or the Takeda Bishi II. And then assaulting the enemy line with their horses, but in reality, they rode those small pony-like horses and stepped off of them before the assault and fought the enemy on foot. Also, it is said that in the Kawanakajima battle, Yasuji Kenshin appeared in the Takeda's troop headquarters gallantly riding a horse named Haoshoutsukaij and tackled against Takeda Shingen and Kazuai, but if that was the truth. The old man with 8th grader syndrome calling himself the reincarnation of Vice Ravana would become the scene of someone wielding a sword while riding a pony. The scene of a bloody battlefield would instantly turn into a cute show at that moment. Just so you know, I am 174 centimeters tall. If the horses in this era are really like ponies, perhaps the scene would be similar to a grown man straddling those toy horses at a kindergarten. If they really are as small as ponies, I won't say anything and walk by foot from now on. I headed toward the Bakiju while pondering about it. Strong. I am convinced now. There wasn't such thing as ponies. The horses of the Sengoku period. The pony theory was very easily verified with my own eyes as it crumbled away. More than 3 meters in length and a body weight of around 900 kilos. Strong muscles and bones with a solid physique. They have a better physique than the top 2 famous horse breeds from my world, the thoroughbred and quarter horse. Moreover, from its head, a huge cylindrical horn is coming out. What is this? It's so cool. And there are even 2 kinds, a white one and a black one. Come on Taishikitsukage, calm down. The white horse that had a considerably huge golden horn above the others was heading towards me, aiming that beautiful horn violently in my direction while raising a clear cry, "Nii-ai." You are definitely not a horse that I'm familiar with. Or rather, this seems bad, really bad. It looks like even if that horn that it is wielding grazes me, my skin would be sliced like butter, or even worse, I'd get impaled, turning it into a Mozu no Hyene 3 situation. I am very sorry. My lord. A horse. No, some kind of horsekeeper. A boy apologizes to me while soothing the horse. This girl finally returned after her last escape attempt on the day before the marriage of Nagamasa-sama and the princess of the Oda family, but it appears she ended up becoming excited. This girl. This one is a female. I unconsciously asked. That's right. As I listen, these horses really do have the appearance of a horse, but their gender isn't given away by their outwards appearance. In other words, the black one is male, and the white one is female. Well, right now the horses are domesticated, but they were originally monsters after all. It isn't strange to think that they were a danger to humans. Monsters. What does he mean by that? Those things should only exist in stories of movies and video games in the modern world. Is that so? You. What is your name? My name is Hikobi. I see. Hikobi, this one caught my attention. I will be riding it today. No, not that one. It's dangerous. Hikobi desperately tried to stop me. As you should know, Nagamasa-sama, this Taishikitsukage was mounted by Azai Sukamasa since it was very young. This horse absolutely won't let anyone but Sukamasa mount it. It didn't even let anyone touch its body initially. Many horse trainers and maids that were looking after her were killed cruelly. Wouldn't it have been better to put it down then? Hikobi opened his mouth the moment I thought that, his timing couldn't be more perfect. As you should know, a monster can only be wounded if it's attacked by another monster or with a weapon made of fluorite. Horses would never kill their own kind. The only one within the Azai family that has held a weapon made of fluorite is the now retired Hisamasa-sama. Also, Hisamasa-sama has never ordered to kill Taishikitsukage, which is a memento of his late father. Yep, I understood. I stare at Taishikitsukage's light green pupils. She stopped her rampage before I knew it and fixed her gaze on me in an observing way. Almost like she was evaluating me. Then Hikobi, why does Taishikitsukage let you touch her? That is probably because I've taken care of her since I was a child. So it's like that. I unconsciously admired her. I fixedly gazed towards Taishikitsukage. You have a strong sense of virtue. Just like a lady. In other words, if we compare this monster to humans, it would be like she's a widow. Perhaps she built fidelity towards her first rider, Sukamasa, and has been determined not to let anyone else ride on her back since then. But then, why did she come back before the marriage of Oichi and me? And why is she so angry? But Taishikatsuki obviously doesn't respond, she only kept staring at me. Don't worry, Taishikatsuki. I slowly get closer to her. Hikobi got desperate and started clinging to my body while begging me to stop. But I understood. In the bottom of those light green pupils, a tremendous and terrific conflict is spreading. Maybe this white horse recognizes me as a different presence in this world. I can't hold myself back from being drawn to it. Taishikatsuki swung her head with a big movement. I tried to evade it quickly but couldn't, my right upper arm was torn up. The fresh blood started to splash around, making Hikobi let out a scream. The entourage that was watching the course of events in the back unsheathed their sword immediately, even though they know that they can't kill her. However, I told them, it's fine. Making them stand down. I faced Taishikatsuki and reached her out for her white body with my hand. I will ride you. Even better than Sukamasa. Riding a widow. Yup, it is an expression overflowing with romance. While whispering in a persuading way, similar to how I whisper to Oichi in the bedroom, I try to touch Taishikatsuki. She allowed me to. Hikobi's eyes were opened wide as he stood there paralyzed. The ones in the entourage were also in utter amazement, and some of them even dropped their sword that they unsheathed. I stroke her body and feel her warmth slowly being transmitted to my palms. I also play with her beautiful silver hair that grows from the back of her neck and touch that lovely face in turns. Then Taishikatsuki's tongue extends, and she started to lick the wound on my right arm that she made earlier. The warmth of her tongue gradually envelopes my arm, it feels comfortable, and my mind blanked for a few minutes. Before I knew it, the wound on my arm closed up. Of course, it was not completely like before, the injury left a pink color as if a scab was scratched. It looks like the wound will leave a scar. Well, it can't be helped, right? It's a miracle. Hikobi, who fell earlier, stands up with sparkling eyes. My lord was accepted by Taishikatsuki. Taishikatsuki lowered her neck and made a sign for me to get on. There wasn't a harness or anything like that, but Taishikatsuki used her neck and skillfully assisted me. I was able to get on her back somehow. Right after getting on Taishikatsuki, an "oh" like cheer could be heard. It wasn't Hikobi or the men of the entourage, because of the scream that Hikobi let out earlier. Officers and men started gathering from inside the Odani castle with a "what's going on?" Maybe they were able to guess the situation the moment they saw me riding the horse. The shouts of joy became bigger little by little and started to echo through the Odani castle. It started to resemble war cries after a while. It hasn't been that many days since I've come to this world, but it seems like mounting this famous horse had a considerable influence on them. Well, it is the memento of the first generation's head of the family, Sukamasa, who was worshipped as a hero. No one had been able to mount her till now, and moreover, the fact that the current head of the family is able to mount her had a considerable important meaning. This isn't bad, I unconsciously muttered after mounting her. The world seen from above the white horse with its golden horn and being cheered on by the people of the Azai family was not bad at all. After I got off from Taishikatsuki, I approached Hikobi, who was now gazing at me as if he was looking at a god. Hikobi, prepare a complete set of harness before I return. Understood. I look at Hikobi as he runs frantically to a corner of the Bakiju while almost tripping over his own feet. Then I started walking towards the crowd that now surrounded Taishikatsuki and me. They quickly opened up a path for me and started escorting me with a look of praise and respect. It would have been a great situation if they were all women, but sadly they're all squalid menservants and old men. Oichi, are you there? Yi. Yes. When I returned to the room of my beloved wife, she was in the middle of staring at herself in front of the mirror. I grabbed some clothes and took her hand in my open hand, pulling her forcibly behind me out of the room. Nagamasa-sama. What on earth are you doing? As one would expect, Oichi is confused. However, I did not dare to answer her question. I cross the corridor while pulling my wife's hand. We go outside and head towards the Bakiju. She was wearing a robe that wasn't tailored for going outside, which made it hard to move around with it, but it can't be helped for now. The crowd was still gathered at the Bakiju, and when they saw me bringing Oichi, they started cheering again and opened up a path. And then, beyond the path opened up by the crowd, Taishiketsuke was standing still with a harness on her back put there by Hikobi. Ah! Oichi unconsciously lets out a gasp. The figure of a huge horse with a pure white body, light green pupils, and a golden horn. That body is now covered by a harness that has gold and silver tones. Too much beauty, too much splendor. Behind me, it seems that Oichi is also completely fascinated. I quickly mounted on Tashiketsuke and whispered to her, "Is it okay to let her ride you too?" Taishiketsuke let out an approving neigh. "It looks like she will allow it." After confirming it, I hold out my hand to Oichi. "Come, Oichi." I called her out while being mounted on the horse. Then, after showing me a blank expression for an instant, she let out a bright smile, nodded with a "yes," and took my hand. I would like to emphasize that a gentleman would never think about or say that Oichi was absurdly heavy at that moment. It couldn't be helped though. Ladies in this era appear to be restricted by several pieces of clothing. It almost looks like they walk around wearing a futon. Right after I lifted her up on the horse and took her in my embrace, she surrounded my back with both of her hands. Then, after confirming that Oichi was completely snuggled in my chest, I finally pulled on the reins of Taishiketsuke. Taishiketsuke raised the upper half of her body with a clear neigh. The beauty of that scene receives a cheer from the crowd. After that Taishiketsuke ran lightly towards the gate of the Odani castle as if she understood my intentions. I wonder if she already understood the situation. The gate is thrown open with perfect timing as if the gatekeeper tried to make it a scene. Then I rode the famous horse of the first-generation head of the family with my beloved wife and headed down to the unspoiled landscape of Japan in the Sengoku era for the first time. Samurai banners crest of the Koshu, Kai province, Takeda family butcher. Bird prey impaled on twigs. This one was annoying to find. Chapter 8.1 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. A Beauty Swaying in the Steam, Part 1. If Oichi is the most beautiful girl of the Sengoku era, then Taishiketsuke is the most beautiful horse of the Sengoku era. The supple and strong feet powerfully kicked the mountain road, the hoofs didn't show any signs of wear, so she didn't need horseshoes. Taishiketsuke ran down to the base of the Odani mountain without slowing down at all. She is able to reach quite a high speed, so truth be told, I'm a little nervous. Oichi raised her voice as if she was a female high-school student riding a roller coaster while clinging to my chest. I don't blame her though, I'm also a little frightened. However, Taishiketsuke didn't lower her speed at all. Even trying to control her with the reins ended up being useless, so I decided to leave everything to Taishiketsuke's judgment. In modern times, thoroughbred horses that participate in horse races generally run at around 60 km an hour. In comparison, Japanese horses generally run at 30 to 50 km an hour. But Taishiketsuke that I'm mounted on right now is running at a speed close to 140 km an hour. She is quite the dreadful animal, but I feel that she's going easy on me even now. What's even stranger is that even though she's running with an overwhelming speed, a sense of crisis of being shaken off Taishiketsuke's back hasn't come to mind at all. Her back is actually stable enough to stay seated without holding the reins. In the end, these aren't horses, after all. Hikobi called them monsters. They aren't the horses I'm familiar with. By the way, the word monster is quite old. It is derived from Buddhism. It is a word that invited the training monks to repel those on the path of treason, that disturbed the good deeds of humans and in some cases even injured human lives. In short, monster means the kind of evil spirits of rivers and mountains that are guilty of such things. As I was pondering about being able to domesticate a horse that was like one of such monsters, I guess it could be said that the Japanese are crazy no matter what world or time you are in. Of course, I mean crazy in a good sense. I have no doubt that they would instantly think of completely exterminating these monsters if they appeared in the West. If you run down the mountain road and pass through the last castle district, a town that lays at the bottom of Odani Mountain appears. Taishikatsuki starts to slow down her speed. She is clever after all. She completely understands that if she runs through the castle town at full throttle, she will end up knocking down the townspeople. Ah! It's Bison. No. Kami. The moment I entered the district, the kids that were playing on the side of the road started a commotion that spread across the town, making a lot of faces stick out from the shops and houses. Currently, the town of the Odani could neither be called big or small, it was averagely sized. Naturally, many of these citizens have been living in these lands for generation after generation, so they have a deep interest in the Azai family. The wife also came. Ha! She's so beautiful. Compared to her, my wife is. What was that? What are you saying while glancing at me? The townspeople of this era used to build things inside their houses or on the road. It was such a form of labor. They kept rushing out from their houses towards the road one after another just to see what was going on. In this era where there is little entertainment, even if it is the smallest of occurrences, they will come to take a look even if that means abandoning their work. Do you know where the wholesale rice dealer is? Nii. I asked Taishikatsuki and then she responded with a neigh while shaking her head. It looks like she understands. It's amazing how clever she is. Taishikatsuki carries Oichi and me and strides through the castle town. In the back, the townspeople follow us in groups. It is somewhat enjoyable since it reminds me of the daimyo's processions that I've read about in textbooks before. Taishikatsuki stopped her feet as I decided to enter into a splendid building with Oichi while pondering about it. The moment we entered the building, the inside became rowdy. The young man that was tending the store withdrew in a hurry, and a healthy middle-aged man came out instead while lowering his head in a servile manner. It appears that the young man earlier is the heir and this old man is the current head of the family. Bison. No. Kami. Sama, and his wife as well. My name is Yamashita Muniki from Omiya. I am terribly sorry for not being able to make a proper reception, please accept my humble apology. Do not worry about it. After saying that to the old man, I decided to get straight to the point. Muniki, this is a wholesale rice dealer, right? Yes, that is correct. Could it be that? Suddenly a shadow is cast on the face of Muniki. A battle against the Rakaku family. No, that's not it. Besides, I didn't come today to buy rice. Oh. Muniki tilted his head. This is a wholesale rice dealer. If Bison. No. Kami. Sama didn't come to buy rice, then why on earth did he come by? I feel he was thinking something along those lines. I want rice bran. Around 600 grams if possible. Rice bran. Certainly, we have some but. Muniki ended up tilting his head once more. Why would he want something that looks like dredge? I was easily able to read what he was thinking again. Even though no one pays special attention to it, if you are Japanese you would know that rice bran is the powder that comes out from the process of turning unpolished rice into polished rice. In modern times it is used for nukazuke too, and it has a big role as an ingredient in rice. Bran oil, but it wasn't particularly noticed in the Sengoku era of Japan because many people were eating unpolished rice. By the way, it is said that the history of nukazuke started in Kitakyushu at the start of the 17th century. However, it appears that the rice. Bran was currently being used in Nukamuso 3, or to be more precise it was used in Misazuke 4, but let's put that aside for now. 5 with an expression as if he was thinking, wanting such a thing, Bison. No. Kami. Sama sure says weird things. Muniki signals the people of the store to bring the rice bran. Then after a short while, the young man from before brings out a jute bag filled to the brim with rice bran from the back of the store. I thank the man and receive the bag. I ask the cost of the rice bran from Muniki. Don't mention it, said Muniki while shaking his head and waving his hands. Rice bran is only good for fertilizing the fields. And more than anything, I could never ask for payment of bison. No. Kami. Sama who took the trouble to come here in person. Such reasoning won't do. I remember having read in a history magazine that one sentence equaled about 120 yen in modern times. I take out 10 sentences from my pocket and hand them over to the young man. It should be approximately 1200 yen. A loaf is 600 grams, so it could be said that it's a reasonable price. I cannot accept it. The young man shook his head and refused to get paid. I'm not entirely sure if it's out of stubbornness or a strong sense of duty. I was under the impression that merchants were an unscrupulous existence and that I have to be on my guard against them, but I realized that there were honest people among them. What is your name? My name is Shinhakiro. Shinhakiro, do you have a wife and children? I do. I exchanged vows with a girl from a dry goods store located in the capital. My child is still a baby and is fed from his mother's breast. Is your child cute? Well, of course. I see, then, you should buy something nutritious for your wife and child with this, I said while pushing the 10 sentences on Shinhakiro. If you say that this store can't accept the money, I will give you this money for the sake of your wife and child. In order for a child to drink plenty from the mother's breast, the mother also needs to eat a lot. A child is a treasure. Raise your child with great care together with your wife and succeed a firm household. Do you understand? After patting the shoulder of Shinhakiro who is shedding tears of gratitude, I invite Oichi who is thinking about something to follow me as we went outside. Outside there was a crowd fascinated by Taishiketsuki's beauty. I tied the jute bag that holds the rice bran to the harness and mounted Taishiketsuki. Following that, I pulled up Oichi and embraced her as I did before. Ooh, the townspeople raised a cheer. I wave one hand at them as the upper body of Taishiketsuki rises upward. We strode towards the mountain road while being mounted on this huge white body with a horn on top that looked like it was glowing with the sunlight falling on it. We left the castle town in the blink of an eye and arrived at the base of the Odani mountain. Are we going back? Oichi who was still clamped to my chest asked me. She seems to be under the impression that we only went to the castle town to buy rice bran. We won't go back yet. Taishiketsuki strays off the road towards the Odani castle as if she was able to read my thoughts. By running through a different road that had many trees growing on it, we ended up finding the place I was searching for. Oh! Oichi raised a voice of surprise at my chest. Beyond where Taishiketsuki stopped her step we were able to see it. A hot spring surrounded by an indistinct smell of iron. Here at the base of the Odani mountain, there is a hot spring, and it is even a historical fact that Azai Nagamasa used to bring his wife, Oichi and his daughters here to take baths. This hot spring is unusual because it contains iron. When it gushes forth, it is colorless and transparent, but it gradually turns red as time passes. Nonetheless, this hot spring is undeveloped, it is similar to a warm pond right now. Various small and large stones lay at the bottom and mud is also mixed in the hot water. However, this is a trivial problem when I think about the fact that I haven't been able to take a decent bath after arriving in the Sengoku era. I step off Taishiketsuki and gaze at the steaming vapor that rises upward. Then the sleeves of my kimono were pulled by Oichi. When I turned around, she was looking at me with moist eyes. Nagamasa-sama, don't tell me the reason you brought me. I don't have to hide it anymore. I wanted her to soak in a hot spring after finally leaving her parents and coming to Omi. I wanted her to relax and forget about all the pressure she is under. I remained silent and nodded, and then Oichi who was overcome with emotions threw herself into my chest and started crying. Taishiketsuki gave us a backward glance and started walking towards the hot water. Then with only her neck laid outside the hot water, she raised a neigh of satisfaction. Shall we enter as well, Oichi? After seeing the loose appearance of Taishikatsuki, I let out a small laughter while sweeping away the tear hanging at the corner of Oichi's eye. It is also an expression of gratitude for cleaning my ears earlier this morning. I hope it slowly heals her fatigue. Yes, Nagamasa-sama. But. Oichi touches my chest while bending her head, expressing that she was embarrassed. If it's about the kimono, you could change to the appropriate clothes that we brought from your room earlier. You should also be able to use those to wipe your body. That's not it. My lovely and shy wife. She is so adorable. But I somehow understand what she's trying to say. You're embarrassed to be seen. Well. The sun is still up, Ah, so innocent. Why are you this innocent, Oichi? But on second thought, it has only been 3 days since we've gotten married. We have been having vigorous sex these last couples of days, so it keeps slipping my mind. Nonetheless, I can't keep staring at her. I stepped closer to her and whispered next to Oichi, who won't take off her clothes because of her shyness as ear. Let's bathe in the hot water together. Oichi made a gentle and deep nod after hearing what I said. I laid a cloth on the ground. She ended up saying, please don't look, and immediately after let her robe fall. It's a strip show from my lovely wife. I feel bad for Oichi, but I will enjoy the view. She unties her sash, which raises a sound. Oichi, who was taking off her between season wear, embraced her shoulders and her cheeks were dyed red from the embarrassment as I fixedly stared at her figure. Then, finally, the between season wear falls to the ground, leaving no clothes behind. Her naked body was revealed. As if trying to escape my persistent gaze, while covering her pure white naked body, she quickly immersed herself into the red-hot spring. By the way, my big son was already pretty ecstatic. After all, it's the first time I get to see her like this other than at night. I also quickly threw down my clothes and followed Oichi into the hot spring. Matsumoto, Bison. No. Kami Masanobu was a semi-legendary Japanese warrior and founder of the Kashima Shin. Ryu school of swordsmanship and a member of the noble lineage of the ancient Ki clan. This is apparently a nickname of Nagamasa. Type of Japanese pickle, made by fermenting vegetables in rice bran. Roasted rice bran, which is then mixed in a crock with salt, kombu seaweed, and water. Vegetables pickled in miso. Not entirely sure about this. If anyone knows a lot about this stuff, let me know in the comments. Chapter 8.2 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. A Beauty Swaying in the Steam, Part 2, Foi. Oichi lets out a small fatigued sigh. After seeing her make that kind of expression, I felt from the bottom of my heart that it was a good decision to make her follow me here. She doesn't show it in her words or on her face, but having come from Owari to Omi as the Nobunaga's family representative must have tired her out considerably. If people continue to steal themselves too much, they eventually break down. I do need to let out my gas somewhere, but just being able to heal the uneasiness and fatigue today with this bath feels quite good. I also want the stiffness of my big son to be taken care of, but that will have to wait for now. After moving closer to Oichi's side, she began to slowly sink her body lower into the bath. She was probably trying to hide her swelling nipples and cleavage. The modesty of not even letting me, her husband, see her completely naked was something extremely appealing. A woman who has let go of her shy side is the same as a man without a dick. I embraced Oichi around her shoulders with my arms. Her body stiffened with a twitch, but as soon as she understood I wouldn't do anything further, she closed her eyes and laid her head on my chest. Being together with her in the hot springs gave me a refreshing feeling throughout my body. I could stay like this forever. Along the foot of the Odani mountain, the silent white steam soaked up towards the sky. As Oichi and I followed the direction of the steam with our eyes, we felt each other's warm bodies, our blood running fast and the beat of our heartbeats. As I was thinking how nice it would be to always be able to stay like this, sadly the world doesn't allow such a joyful occurrence to continue endlessly. The bright clear sky turned dark before we knew it, and then evening arrived. It became quite dark. Yes. This bliss will soon come to an end. As she put both hands in her cheek on my chest, entrusting her entire body to me, Oichi murmured something in a lonely voice. If the sun falls completely, we could lose our path back, resulting in an unexpected accident. I missed the timing. As my big son shrank down, that thought resonated in my head. When I stepped out of the bath, I grabbed the jute bag filled with rice bran, and while holding it, I headed towards Taishiketsuke. Feeling my approach, she let out a sweet neigh and slowly rose up. She was probably wondering if I was about to do something. Nagamasa-sama, what are you doing? Oichi watched me with a curious face, asking me what I'm planning on doing. I started scrubbing Taishiketsuke's body with the rice bran. As if feeling good from my massage, Taishiketsuke started to wave her wet tail. What are you, a dog? Taking into account both her feminine modesty and beauty, you wouldn't expect her to respond like this. What, you say? I'm cleaning her body. With rice bran. That's right. The flow of my blood that disappeared during midday seemed to be coming up again as I continued washing her body. Rice bran, you see, seems to have several powerful cleaning effects for the body and hair. Didn't you know? No, I didn't know. Well, wait up for a little bit. I turned my gaze towards Oichi, who was now looking at me with a curious voice, wonder what she had to wait for. I returned my devotion towards Taishiketsuke, cleaning her voluptuous body thoughtfully with both hands. The beautiful horse, who looked entranced with narrow eyes, seemed to feel especially good. Using the rice bran to clean that enormous body, seemed to make Taishiketsuke in front of me to immerse herself even deeper into the hot spring. By doing so, a large amount of filth floated towards the water's surface and ended up flowing outside the bath. Taishiketsuke's body seemed to quiver as she sank into the hot spring, making the rice bran that stuck to her body being washed off by the water. You feel more refreshed now, right? After asking Taishiketsuke that, she let out a delightful neigh indicating that she was overjoyed. That being said, I ended up using roughly half of the rice bran that I had. This was beyond my calculations. It means that Taishiketsuke's body was that big. Oh well, since she looks satisfied, I think it's fine either way. As I was finished with her, I walked to the side and grabbed the jute bag once more. Oichi, come out of the bath and sit on that stone. I'll wash your hair. But that. Knowing that her naked body would be seen, Oichi started turning her body to the other side with embarrassment written all over her body. If that's the case. Is it no good with me? That's. Well, I left the jute bag behind and started embracing Oichi, who was still inside the hot spring, with both arms. After my hands touched Oichi's skin, I started moving them all over, but since the bath was overflowing with so many different colors, it was difficult to see my moves clearly. I see. As her abundant and rich breasts are being fondled by my hands, I started licking Oichi's flustered ears, coating the inside with my saliva. While making splashing sounds that echoed in her ears, her body trembled with a jolt. Since you are going to get dirty anyway, you'd rather be cleaned afterward. Is that it? Yo, you're wrong. As I attacked Oichi's ears, I put my finger into her mouth, making her body contract. The figure of Oichi trying to suppress the pleasure gave me an indescribable joy and arousal. My big son, that had become flaccid, gained vigor once again. Oichi, take a look. Nagamasa's thing is. As I stand up, my big son appeared in front of her. My penis remarkably rose up all the way touching my stomach. Oichi looked at it in a daze. This would be the third time we embrace each other. Until now Oichi has utterly gasped in agony of my big son. But still, rather than feeling fear, she looks to actually be curious and filled with affection towards it. Nagamasa-sama, what's wrong? Oichi lifted her gaze and asked me. Her gaze seemed to show that she decided on something and was hoping I agreed with her. Nagamasa-sama wants, well. Children, right? It's obvious that having children is extremely important in the Sengoku era. If there are no boys, the family's name and existence would be lost, and if there are no girls, you wouldn't be able to create diplomatic marriages. In this age, marriage is usually decided by the head of the family, to become a father or brother. But for girls or sisters, it holds the meaning of ordering them to go and conceive that man's child. In Oichi's case, her partner was selected by her brother since he wanted to make a connection to the Azai family. In short, it was the same as ordering her to have some rich sexual experiences with Nagamasa and conceive his child. After hearing what Oichi said, my throat went dry and I could not voice out any words. It's not because I went too deep in the hot springs causing me to lose too much hydration. I just felt pressured by Oichi's powerful words. Just a while ago. At Umi, you came for me. You said, children are a treasure. I'll take my bride's hand and care for her deeply and then surely leave a successor for our house. Yes. Oichi has not been able to forget Lord Nagamasa's words. No matter what, I end up pondering about it. Oichi said so with a sigh. My honorable father had 14 children including Oichi. However, Oichi also has a lot more brothers and sisters conceived through maids that were not recognized by my father. Oichi was raised by her mother. So the days I could meet him were only on New Year or the commemoration day of a victory. Or when he needed something from mother. Letting out another sigh, tears began pouring down her cheeks. I, Oichi, don't want to embrace such a miserable life like that. Just like what happened to my mother, to conceive a child and be torn apart from Lord Nagamasa, then give birth, raise the child and after that having my entire existence end is. As she sobbed, tears continued to fall in huge drops as she kept talking to me. But. Lord Nagamasa said that it was. That it was not like that. You said that to raise a child is not just the wife's work but that it is something that has to be done with the help of her husband. And that way a successor to the house would be born, you said. Oichi embraced me while asking in a trembling voice. Is it okay for Oichi to believe in those words? That unlike my mother I will live without only making sad memories, being only able to meet my husband every now and then. Oichi asked that while sobbing convulsively. Even if a child is born while I'm with you. Nagamasa-sama wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Stay together with Oichi and raise our children together. Without thinking, I hugged Oichi. I felt as though I had to do so. As I did so, she started crying even louder. No. I don't want that. Oichi. Oichi loves you Nagamasa-sama. I swear upon the gods of heaven and earth that I love you more than anyone in this world. It's because I'm with you Nagamasa-sama that Oichi is so happy right now. I don't want to be torn away from this happiness. I want to stay with Nagamasa-sama. I don't want to conceive and be sent far away from you. These screams came from the bottom of Oichi's heart, it gave a feeling of piercing one's heart. That's right, the marital relationships from the Sengoku era and modern times are completely different. In the Sengoku era, when the man made his wife pregnant, it all ended there. The family raising the child would end up entrusting the child to an instructor called a tutor, this is what usually happened. As for the man, when his wife gave birth to 2 or 3 boys his job was done, he was free to make any woman that he was interested in his concubine. Not having to lay his hands on his wife ever again. The time that I came from, families are fundamentally the same, it is made up by both parents and children together, and even though there might be some friction between them, they manage to live together in their own way, this is how most families work. I lost both my parents early on, so I couldn't help but feel jealous of those friends of mine that lived in that kind of environment. That is why I thought that if I were ever given a chance to get married and raise children, I would make sure to care for both my wife and children. It is true that I was only thinking of impregnating her continuously. That's why Oichi's strong cries of someone who has seen the married men of this age use pregnancy as an excuse to make their wife move away from their husband, hit me really hard. I put my hands on Oichi's face and pulled her close to me. Oichi let out an "ah" in a small voice and closed her eyes. I pressed my lips onto hers, that's all I did. I looked at Oichi's eyes and said sincerely to her heart full of anxiety. Believe in me. Oichi only needed to hear this. I have only been going out with her for a short time, but I was sure of it. The truth is, for some reason or another she is very bright. However, the downside of that is that her head becomes a mess from overthinking, that's the sort of woman she is. And that's why there is no need to look for any troublesome reasoning. That Oichi believes in the husband she loves, just believing in me is good enough. I know it's a pretty selfish explanation, but that's how I feel. The naked Oichi rose up from the hot water and once again embraced me. She and I, who were not so different in height, faced each other. Oichi's arms entangled themselves on my back and hugged me tightly. Her voluptuous breasts pressed with a squishy feeling against my chest. My big son pressed against her smooth abdomen, making it jump with a twitch. I'm not sure how long we stayed like that. Oichi was gazing at my face, and I was also gazing at her beautiful face. Our eyes kept mixing as we were enchanted by each other. Our surroundings became completely dark. The steaming bath now reflected the moonlight, making it bright. Me and Oichi kept locking our lips against each other. HNNN, Nagamasa.sama. Leaving a string of saliva between her and me, Oichi started fondling her breasts with her own hands. Here, please. Please. Impregnate me. After hearing that voice that was like a whisper, my big son rose up higher than before, becoming hard enough to pierce the moon. A Japanese expression for ejaculation.